Police Commissioner Fani Masemola says security at Mkhwanazi's house has been beefed up.
Well, in terms of physical protection, he's been getting threats to his life in that province. We have beefed up his security.
Masemola says he didn't take issue with Mkhwanazi's media briefing.
He won't be persecuted. From my side, surely there will be no persecution of any member of South African Police Service. Not only him, but anyone.
Masemola says the next step in this saga will be announced once he has briefed President Cyril Ramaphosa. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News.
Water and Sanitation Minister Phebi Majodina insists her department has approved all necessary support to municipalities to ensure efficient access to water. Majodina says challenges faced by the various metros result in failures in providing water to South Africans. Majodina was speaking on 702 this morning, a day after tabling her department's budget in Parliament. She told the National Assembly most challenges at municipal level emanate from a lack of technical skills and resources required to meet the needs. The assertion comes as residents across the country living in major cities like Tshwane, Johannesburg and Cape Town struggle with a consistent supply. Majodina says many of the challenges of water supply are man-made and must be confronted.
We can play our role as per the Constitution to support municipalities, and we are doing exactly that, to support, but we cannot take over their responsibility. Where they are supposed to fix their leaks, it cannot be us who come and fix their assets. We give support, we give them grants to augment whatever they have.
Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge has labelled his persistence in interactions with High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo as negotiation and persuasion. He has been testifying before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal investigating allegations of sexual harassment against him. Yesterday, it was revealed the senior judge asked Mengo for photos 11 times on the first day they interacted on messaging service WhatsApp. Mbenenge is accused of making unwanted sexual advances towards Mengo between 2021 and 2022. Zoleka Kodashe has more.
Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge has spent his time on the stand desperately trying to discredit the evidence-in-chief of High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo. He says there was never a rebuff from the junior staffer, but that her rejection at the request that they be intimate was specific to that instance and was not recurring. The Judge President testified that he was led to believe that he must continue pursuing the junior staffer after she told him to earn it upon his many requests for her photos. Evidence leader Advocate Salome Skeepers argued that the complainant said this because she did not know how to respond to an inappropriate request from the senior judge, but Mbenenge disagrees.
I did not understand "earn it" from an adult female to mean what we are saying now. She is not so well as to send a juicy picture. Is that what you are saying?
She's not well, but you are requesting her for a juicy picture.
Yes.
Why?
Why not?
Skeepers is expected to conclude with a cross-examination today. Zoleka Kodashe, Eyewitness News.
Some Rosettenville residents in the south of Johannesburg have reiterated their call for foreign nationals to stop using public clinics and hospitals, insisting they should only be using private facilities. The community has been protesting for almost 2 weeks now, blocking foreign nationals from accessing medical services. During their demonstration yesterday, they handed over a memorandum of demands at the Boysons police station, calling for the deportation of illegal immigrants. Ntokozo Khumalo reports.
Angry residents in the area have reiterated their call for South Africans to be prioritized for state services. Some of the issues raised during a protest yesterday are law enforcement officials who are accused of working with illegal immigrants to commit crime. Protester Tandega Masondo says police need to protect public clinics from being accessed by undocumented foreign nationals.
Then if you had medical certificates, then you're allowed to go to the clinic. But then if you don't have, who's paying for you? There's private doctors, there's private clinics. Nobody is denying them that right. There's no dogs in front of those hospitals. You can go there. They have businesses here. Those businesses are not even registered. So they have the money, they have the funds, so they can go to private doctors.
She adds that departments need to come together to address issues faced by communities. Ntokozo Khumalo, Eyewitness News.
And in East Asia, South Korea's disgraced ex-president Yoon Suk-yeol has been detained for a second time today over his declaration of martial law and held in a solitary cell as investigators widen their insurrection probe. Yoon plunged Seoul into a political crisis when he sought to subvert civilian rule in December last year, sending armed soldiers to parliament in a bid to prevent lawmakers voting down his declaration of martial law. He became South Korea's first sitting president to be taken into custody when he was detained in a dawn raid in January after he spent weeks resisting arrest using his presidential security detail to avoid investigators. But he was released on procedural grounds in March, even as his trial on insurrection charges continued. After Yoon's impeachment was confirmed by the court in April, he again refused multiple summons from investigators, prompting them to seek his detention once more to ensure cooperation. The latest arrest warrant was issued over concerns that Yoon would destroy evidence in the case. Gold's trading at $3,327.22 an ounce. The rand's at 17.74 to the dollar, at 24.16 to the pound, at 20.82 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $70.21 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got roadworks along the R21 south in the Tembisa area, and they're causing delays coming out of Oliphants-Fontaine Road. Please be on the lookout there. While traveling on the N1 North, more roadworks are taking place approaching Winnie Mandela Drive. Delays from Malibongwe Drive.
A look at your weather. Clear skies in store for Gauteng today. Temperatures are set to peak at highs of 17 and 18 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The National Police Service has revealed its KwaZulu-Natal Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has been receiving threats since his bombshell media briefing.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Walk through history, walk with it. Sunday, 27 July, 7:02 Walk the Talk. Hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. More on primemediaplus.com.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 7:02.
Let's Walk the Talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Eight minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the Thursday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. It's so wonderful of you to join us here on 702. We always love keeping you company. I hope you're well this morning. The 702 open line starts right now on 011-883-0702 is the number to dial, or 072-702-1702. That's the WhatsApp line. So you may have seen Discovery Health has come out to respond to that Section 59 inquiry. They've criticized it, flatly rejecting the damning findings of racial bias and branding the panel's conclusions as flawed in their methodology and how that was based on unscientific assumptions and a misrepresentation of complex data. Remember, the Section 59 panel investigating allegations of racial discrimination against black healthcare providers by medical schemes issued its final report just the other day, and that report found that between 2012 and 2019 there was evidence that the fraud, waste and abuse systems used by medical schemes showed racial discrimination, particularly against black service providers. And I actually just want to hear from you as medical practitioners. If you're a medical practitioner, what's your general interaction, right, with the medical schemes? In your experience, are there certain groups that are targeted for fraud, waste, and abuse? Is that something that you have experienced? Because, one of the justifications by some of the medical aides is that, well, if you look at the black doctors, for instance, the majority of the doctors themselves would be black, given the demographics in this country. But also, you look at how many of those people go to those medical professionals that have been asked or quote-unquote targeted according to some of the medical aids. So the methodology then can be flawed if you're not going to be considering inherently what are the dynamics of that area or the dynamics of this country in as far as our demographics are concerned. So what's your experience as a medical practitioner? I'd like to hear from you. Also, did you hear what President Donald Trump said to the president of Liberia?
We want to work with the United States in peace and security within the region because we are committed to that. And we just want to thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you. It's such good English, such beautiful. Where did you learn to speak so beautifully? Where were you educated? Where? In Liberia.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's very interesting. It's beautiful English.
Sure.
I have people at this table can't speak nearly as well, and they come from.
So this is Donald Trump, the president of the U.S., telling the Liberian president, "You speak such good English. Where did you get educated?" So it was Joseph Boakai, the president of Liberia, and of course, English is the official language in Liberia, right? And I want to know if you found this comment by President Trump weird. I think it's easy to make assumptions about Trump. You know, he probably doesn't even know much about Liberia. He probably has this skewed perception about the African continent that most Americans arguably have. So we can safely assume that Trump was being Trump. But what happens when we broaden this discussion outside of Trump? And I would like you, yes, one, to give me your thoughts on what Trump said, but I also want your thoughts on the scenario if it didn't include Trump. Like, do you get offended as a black person when someone says you speak well? Well, in the context of English, the English language, of course, whether the person complimenting you is black or white. So I think we have to take history and context into account, right? I don't get offended when someone, black or white, compliments how I speak English unless, and that's a caveat, unless I have reason to believe the white person complimenting me or the black person complimenting me is being condescending and disingenuous. And let me use myself as an example, right? I get some people tell me that I speak well, even though I disagree with that. Like 99.8% of them are black, even though I don't agree that I speak good English. In fact, I don't think my English is even worth being complimented. But that's beside the point. The point is, these people who often tell me that I speak well know my context and history. They know that I am from a village. They know that Sepedi was my first language. They know that I went to a village public school and that the first time I had teachers who only spoke to us in English throughout our academic period was at the University of Pretoria. There was one teacher in high school who did want to speak to us in English, but at university it was different. That was the medium of instruction. When someone knows that context, isn't it reasonable then to assume that when they compliment you, it's because they are impressed with how far you have come, given your context? So again, context is key. So why is the quick assumption that we run to that the person is being condescending? How do you read it? Should offense be taken? I want to know what your thoughts are, and maybe we can help you see each other's approaches. So when you are being appreciated or acknowledged for speaking well, and there are people who speak well, and I was telling the producers this morning, because we fundamentally disagree on this, I was telling them that, for instance, I have complimented people, even black people, on the expressions of English, like Bongani Bingwa, for instance. Like I've told him before that he speaks such great English. He speaks well. He knows how to play with words. He's so poetic in how he expresses himself. Does that mean that's condescending? Not really. But I take context into consideration. And I'm talking there especially for the older generation. I mean, it's a different country now, so you've got more and more black people who can speak the language comfortably, sometimes even better than their white counterparts. But for the adults and stuff, should they take offense? Do you take offense? Whether the compliment comes from a black person or a white person. Let's have a rational conversation about that. Let me see your point. Let me know if you see my point. 011-883-0702 is the number to dial. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Between 10 and 11 o'clock, we're going to do our hanging out feature. Today, I'm hanging out with Nonkululeko Gobodo. She's a powerhouse. She's known for being South Africa's first black female chartered accountant. She has since received many other accolades and was appointed as the Chancellor of the Walter Sisulu University. I mean, she's a leading figure in the business world, having won several awards. I mean, she was most influential woman in 2012 at some point, businesswoman of the year in 2014. I can go on and on and on. But she tore her way into a male-dominated industry and flourished. And I think she's got such an incredible story. So we're going to share that with us. She's going to share that with us between 10 and 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Thursday dialogue. And today, I want us to discuss this complex and pervasive link between politicians and criminal elements. I mean, we've been dealing with allegations of criminal ties to politicians this entire week, to politicians and top cops. And those allegations have sent shockwaves across the country. I mean, since KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Commissioner Clement Manyathela made those allegations against high-ranking police officials, including the police minister, we've all been concerned about the state of security. So I want us to have a conversation about the extent of these criminal elements within our state, especially in the context of what Gogo Obrimachikri said yesterday on the show, right? Calls have mounted for a judicial inquiry into the criminal infiltration into the SAPS and government. And there's a whole history to understand about this. Jackie Silebi days, we saw something almost similar. Jacob Zuma's days, he was seen as being close to a particular family, a family that was seen to behave in a criminal manner. So we'll give that context and, of course, look at where to from now and where do these links between politicians and criminal elements start. So that's a chat we're going to have on our Thursday dialogue at 11 o'clock. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
All right, I'm going to go to your calls and WhatsApps in a moment. I just want to alert you about something we're going to be doing on the show. In fact, just broadly as Radio 702. So, you know there's the national dialogue coming up in August, right? That was announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Well, we are going to host the People's Dialogue ahead of that national dialogue. And we want to invite you to come and take part because we want to have a conversation and have as different constituencies as possible represented. So I want you to send me an email on comment@702.co.za if you would want to attend this People's Dialogue, and then we can share details with you about the venue where this thing will take place. But we're going to dedicate the entire 3 hours of the show on that dialogue. Let's have conversations ahead of the conversations that are going to be had in August. So this is going to be happening in the next couple of weeks, and I want you to help us also look at the issues that we should be touching on during that dialogue. Yeah? So I'm asking you two things. When you email me on comment@702.co.za, one, please indicate if you would like to participate and why, like what constituency do you represent, or are you just someone who is interested to participate, to share your thoughts? Are you from a particular industry? You tell me. And number two, what issues, perhaps you don't want to attend, but you want to suggest the kind of issues that are most pivotal that we should be focusing on. Comment@702.co.za. That's the email address. Please contact us, and then I'll share more details with you about this People's Dialogue that Radio 702 will be hosting ahead of the National Dialogue in August. It's 20 minutes now after 9.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
Good morning, 702 and Clement. I think just my experience on that Trump comment to the Liberian president is that it happens quite a lot. I mean, I work in corporate, and often when our white colleagues meet someone new, or we are in things like interviews or job interviews, as an example, you find that they still rate people of color based on how they speak, how well they speak the English language, and sometimes not even listening to substance, but just based on making a decision or creating a perception of a person based on, just how well they speak the language. Often told, "Oh, you speak really well. You are so articulate." And that is in some instance, a measure of, how this person is going to be successful or how they could take this person up seriously. So I've seen this before.
Unfortunately, Clement, I can't agree with Trump saying that to the Liberian president, that it's a compliment. It's condescending, because as a president, you are supposed to know that in Liberia, the language is English. That's the language that they speak. You are supposed to know that, or the people around you are supposed to inform you that this person speaks proper English, if that is one of the things that they look at. But complimenting a president on his speech, that is condescending. From another president, that is condescending. Sam.
Look, again, it's easy for us to make assumptions about Trump. That's why I'm broadening it, right? Of course, Trump is naive about the African continent. He's already said stuff about this continent. We know what his views are. So it's easy. That's an easy one. You can make a case, and you and I wouldn't disagree there, about Trump's views about the African continent and why Trump would ask a question like that. I get that. But I want to broaden it. And because I do think that, yeah, sometimes we do run the risk of wanting to problematize everything. Yeah, I do think so. And I've used an example before of other instances where there are challenges that we deal with, but there are assumptions that are made that are almost like they're general. Like, remember when we used to talk, for instance, about, gender-based violence, and you say, is it possible for a woman to lie about gender-based violence? Of course, 99.999% of women would never do that, you would assume, right? Because most of the time, you know what's likely to follow when you do that, right? That doesn't mean there are no women out there who are not capable of lying just to hurt somebody else. Like, women are human beings, right? They're not angels, if you believe in angels, that are somehow beyond reproach and they are not capable of lying. If you are going to force the society to have that assumption about women, for instance, then that's trouble. Because anybody is going to get up and say, oh, this is what happened, and we are not going to get ourselves to want to even test the allegation because we think they must be assumed to always be angels that are going to tell the truth. I'm using that example to say, in this case, you've got President Trump who says it's easy for us to agree there. I'm taking it out of context now, out of the Trump context. I'm saying, why must it be an offense if someone gives you the context, or there's a context that's considered? I do agree that there are instances where someone says that. That's why I said the caveat for me is, unless I've got reasonable, I believe that reasonably this person is being condescending, then I can take that offense. But there are often times when it could be a black or a white person who says, oh, Clement, you are quite fluent in this language, given where you come from. And they don't mean it as condescending. They mean they are so impressed because they know other people who come from similar circumstances who sort of have struggled with expressing themselves. Isn't that real? That there are people who come from the same context as you, but they can't express themselves the way you do? So I guess what I'm asking is, why must it always, the quick thing must be, it is an offense, as opposed to reasonably judge it and think, okay, what's the history of this person who's telling me this? Could they be condescending or not? As opposed to, then you jump to that conclusion. And I think it's one of those things where society then just expects you to go angry and say, how dare you? You're being racist. I don't know. I would like to be more thorough and critical when I make a conclusion like that. Let's go to Tasneem, who's calling us from Renbeck. Tasneem, what are your thoughts? Hi.
Hi. So look, to your point, I get what you're saying, but I'm very sorry when you are in that kind of position, whether you are in a CEO or in a very executive position, you should know, especially someone like Trump who's very well traveled. He's very well acquainted with people from African continent.
He's not, Tasneem. Have you heard Trump's views about the continent? When he spoke about Lesotho, he even said he didn't even know Lesotho. What did he say? Like, where is that?
But Clement, I read somewhere that his T-shirts in depth, apparently he's coming from Lesotho, unless that's not true. But anyway, look, I personally feel that when you are a head of state or in a senior position, the courtesy is to actually take some initiative instead of making a fool of yourself. And I think people are so used to the way he is that we think it's okay. I actually feel we live in a seriously flawed world where stupidity is okay, and especially someone, and I'm not saying he's stupid because, to a degree he has to be intelligent enough to where he is. But the point I'm trying to make is, Clement, if you were running your own company and if somebody came to you and they did not know much about the subject matter, honestly, you would say, sorry, this person's not for me. It's showing courtesy. That's what it's about. So that's one. I'll give you my personal experience, and I didn't take it offensive at all. I'm a brown woman, and I'm a Muslim woman. I was working in the UK, and one of my colleagues, who happened to be a friend, and I appreciated her honesty, when she found out that I was Indian Muslim woman, she says, oh, I thought all Muslims are terrorists. And I know to you, I know.
Tasneem, that's different.
No, hear me out. If anybody else was in my shoe, they would have taken an offense. For me, I didn't. It was an opportunity for me to actually educate her and tell her that whatever you hear in the media is not always true.
But which media has even said that? Which media has said all Muslims are terrorists?
Because remember when 9/11 happened, what was happening? Especially when I lived in London and there was bombings and the train bombings and all of that. See, I think it's very different when you're not living in the country and you don't experience the narratives and all of that. And sometimes people don't need to be blatant with you, but you're not silly. You can hear the undertones. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So it's so that kind of stereotype. So I didn't take an offense at all. I'm just glad that she met someone like me, that she understood then.
And you used this as a teachable moment. Tasneem, I hear you, right? But I think that's on another level. That's Islamophobic. It is. It's Islamophobic. And I think, and I'm glad that you handled it in a way, but I think you needed to tell your friend that, okay, first of all, that is offensive, even though you haven't taken offense. Just explain, that is very offensive, right, to Muslims, because even when 9/11 happened, then yes, you can see sort of the reporting, even in the US and what the presidents at the time were saying, and when they were going after who they thought had actually orchestrated 9/11. But there was no way, well, at least as far as I know, in the so-called mainstream media where people came out and said, well, all Muslims are terrorists. No. I get goosebumps even repeating that. So I think that's completely on a different level. The friend mustn't be that ignorant. Yes, use it as a teachable moment, but they must know that that is offensive. You can never repeat that to anyone. You can never. That's like saying, I don't know, black people are lazy or whatever, or brown people are this. You can never say that. That is offensive, and then use it as a teachable moment. But they must know how problematic that statement is. But thanks, Tasneem, for calling us with your thoughts. And by the way, once again, guys, we agree on Trump. We agree. He's the head of state. That's why I'm trying to take it out of the Trump context. It's very easy for us to then say to Trump, he's wrong. He's a head of state. He can't say that to another head of state. Or Trump historically has made problematic statements about this continent. He probably has a skewed perception about the African continent and the people from here. We agree there. I'm saying, let's make it relatable now in our day-to-day lives. Do you get offended when someone gives you context? So should I be offended? And should I be offended because there are people, as I said, who have said that to me, who are black? Should I be offended when they say it? And should I be offended when it's said by a white person who may also consider my context? How do you slice it? Let's talk. It's 9:31. Sviso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina insists her department has provided all necessary support to municipalities to ensure efficient access to water. Majodina says challenges faced by the various metros results in failures in providing water to South Africans. She was speaking on 702 this morning, a day after tabling her department's budget in Parliament. In the courts, alleged baby snatcher Shamima Jacobs is due to make her second appearance in the Bellville Magistrates Court today. Jacobs is charged with kidnapping and defeating the ends of justice after police tracked her down to Tafelsig in Mitchell's Plain after the baby was abducted on the 28th of June. When Jacobs last appeared, the state asked for more time to collect bail information. And in East Africa, Kenyan President William Ruto has ordered police to shoot protesters targeting businesses in the legs, ensuring they are incapacitated but not killed. The UN and human rights groups have accused the police of using excessive force in the recent wave of anti-government protests. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at 10 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
If you're traveling in North Riding, Sharon Lee and the Randbeck areas, we've got heavy delays on the N1 North. This is due to an accident reported right after Malibongwe off-ramp. It's causing those long queues, and there's also roadworks along the same route, and that's the reason for that long backup towards Winnie Mandela Drive. If you are traveling towards Sandton, do expect more traffic volumes on the M1 North towards Greyston Drive due to roadworks that are taking place after Corlett Drive. There's also queuing traffic along the M1 South between the Baklu Interchange and Marlborough Drive. If you're traveling in Tembisa, roadworks on the R21 South approaching the R25 exit. Please be on the lookout there and drive with care. I'll have your next traffic updates at the top of the hour.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
As the Department of Basic Education is pushing ahead with the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill, it has admitted that more than 7,000 grade R teachers across South Africa are not qualified, more than 22,000 teachers who are qualified. This surely cannot be good for education.
It certainly isn't. All things considered, if you think about what exactly teaching grade R means, and therefore if you have unqualified teachers, the consequences are quite serious, particularly for those young ones.
Professor Lindelani Mnguni, the Dean of Education at the University of Pretoria.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Living wealthier starts with expanding your income so you have more to invest. At Standard Bank Private, you can enjoy UCount rewards, the cheapest forex rates from Shift, and exclusive benefits and discounts on banking solutions and travel. So, come live wealthier with Africa's best private bank. Apply online at standardbank.co.za. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
South Africa leads the world's biggest economies, the G20, under the bold theme, solidarity, equality, and sustainability. But this is more than a slogan. It's a call to action for solidarity, uniting nations through shared purpose, equality, creating fair opportunities for all, sustainability, growing today without costing tomorrow. As G20 president, South Africa is focused on 3 key priorities: inclusive economic growth and jobs, food security for every table, and using artificial intelligence for sustainable innovation. South Africa, leading the G20, shaping a better world. A message by the GCIS.
My family's struggling with snotty noses and phlegmy coughs.
Oh no! Have you tried ACC?
ACC 600 is a convenient one-a-day effervescent tablet from 14 years of age, or now also in a no water needed fruity flavored sherbet-like granules that dissolve in your mouth. Ideal for the on-the-go adult. Ask for ACC 600 effervescent or oral powder at your nearest pharmacy to get rid of the snotties and flemings. And trust, if it doesn't say ACC, it's not ACC.
702 family. There's a 702 family gathering. So please come and walk with us and meet the 702 family. It's hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. It's the 702 Walk the Talk, and it's hitting the streets on the 27th of July on Sunday. I will be there. The question is, will you be there? This is a chance for us to meet each other, to enjoy the fun and the buzz of walking together. You'll be entertained along the way by the djembe drums, the brass bands, the dancers, the stilt walkers, even surprise appearances by Zola and Ishmael along the way, thanks to Made in Mzansi. Plus, on-stage entertainment at the finish line. Choose your distance now from 8 kilometers. You can do the 6.7 kilometer for Mandela Month or the family-friendly 4 kilometers. Entries are 360 Rand for adults, 200 for kids under 12. Register now on primemediaplus.com. Come and walk with the 702 family and experience the vibe. The 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
On 702.
23 minutes before 10 o'clock. Let's go back to your calls on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Koketso, you are in the East End. Good morning. What are your thoughts?
Yes, morning, Clement. My thoughts are just simply that I think it's just a microaggression, right? And for me, he says the quiet parts out loud, in the sense that, you're right. It's not just about Trump, right? It's just there are people who actually do think these things, but most people have filters. So they don't actually say, the quiet parts out loud. They don't just blurt it out like what he would do. But the reality is that most people do think that things like this, but it doesn't make them right, And I think a lot of the time, people need to also correct them, because sometimes these things also, they work if people also just keep quiet. So, for instance, when you look at how that Liberian president reacted, his reaction was everything, because he didn't have to be confrontational with Trump per se, but he could have actually said to him that no, corrected him and educated him and enlightened him. And I find the problem is that with us as African people, often when we have these type of moments, whether either someone can't pronounce our name properly or they call you a Koki or something, sort of your full name Koketso, you just smile and you just let it pass. And this is the problem. We need to actually say, no, you're going to call me by my full name, okay? Because if I can say yours and yours is complicated, why can you not say mine?
And that's a different thing, Koketso, right? I agree with you there. I agree that, you have to reassert. Someone shouldn't just decide to cut off your name and say it in short because they're struggling to say the full one. And yet when there's a complicated French name or Dutch name, they don't mind. They don't call it complex. It's easy for them to pronounce. Koketso, for instance, I'm going to use myself as an example here just because I'm trying to drive the point home. I have a cousin who knows my context, who knows where I grew up, who knows the kind of schools I went to, who gets surprised that I'm able to express myself the way I do. And he often compliments him. He says, "You speak so well." Is he wrong? Must I take offense from that, from someone who takes context into consideration? Because he knows that for many people who come from a similar background, many of them don't often express themselves in the way that I do. It is a reality on the ground that you see. For instance, let me use another example. I've got a niece who speaks probably 90% English or 85% English, right? Even though when I'm with her, I try to speak Sepedi or Xhosa because her mom is Xhosa. But if my niece at the age of 10 starts speaking Xhosa or Sepedi fluently or expresses herself well, I'm going to compliment her because why? I've taken context into consideration and I'm going to say, oh, wow, Zano, you are ubolela Sepedi botse, or you would get here because of context. So must I be offended when my cousin who knows my context and how we were devoid of opportunities as black people, well, during apartheid for the older generation, and for us, we went to these poor public schools where must I be offended that my cousin appreciates that from me?
No, no, definitely, Clement, I agree with you. You shouldn't be offended, right? Because context is important, and that's why the place that this thing, emanates from is important, right? Because it also comes from with African people. Like, let me give you another example about colorism, right? How someone can say to you that, "Wow, you look so light. Like, you shouldn't be an African person." That is also just as insulting. But a lot of African people, because they still have colorism as a thing, do give compliments like that. You see what I mean? But it's not correct. You shouldn't just say this is fine. You should actually educate that person and say, even if I'm dark-skinned or light-skinned, what difference does it make?
I think that's ignorant.
So it's almost like we should. That's what I'm saying. We shouldn't allow the ignorance to reign. So the biggest problem I have is how we as African people often react to these ignorant things, right?
Yeah.
We just allow it, and then it continues to perpetuate.
Yeah. Quick one though, Koketo.
itself.
If you're saying I shouldn't be offended when my cousin says that to me, why should I be offended when Cynthia says it to me? And I have no reason to believe that Cynthia could be condescending. Like I said, right? And this caveat is important, Koketo. If Cynthia or Natasha, someone who's white, says that to me, and I've got reason to believe that they are condescending, maybe from their tone or from experience, from context, then sure, take offense. If I have no reason to believe that, why must I jump to offense? Because I'm taking it from my cousin, right? But from this person who comes from with a similar context as well, why must I not take it as a compliment from them?
No, for sure, Clement. I do take what you're saying, right? You say that it also depends you in the moment. What are you experiencing? Because if you are feeling that you are taking offense, then you should sort of jump up and say something.
Yeah.
But if you feel that you're not offended by it, I also don't think it's for someone to come and jump up and be offended on your behalf, right? You're the one experiencing that, and then you know how you want to react to it.
Got it. All right, Koketo, let's hear what the other listeners think. Thank you for your thoughts. Great contribution there, Koketo, calling us from the East Rand. I suppose what I'm trying to raise here is let's be a more contextual society. Like, we live in a society where there are groups of people who want you to be angry about every single thing. And when you go deeper and you ask people, why does that upset you? You realize that this comes from group thought. It's not so much that individually they do really genuinely find something weird. Like, for instance, I used to think, I must always be offended when a person tells me I speak so well. What do you mean I speak so well? And then I started thinking to myself, but why, Clem? And I realized that when I'm separating myself from the group thought, from the expectation on how we should be reacting, particularly as black people, then I'm able to critically analyze. And now I can make my own choice, right? And make my own determination about whether or not I'm taking offense, taking into consideration the necessary context that other people may not have. Like, I have had many bosses of mine who are white who know my story. So if they're going to tell me that you express yourself so well, you speak so well, knowing that they know the context, why am I getting mad? Because some group out there thinks, oh my God, Clement's boss just said this. And I go with that. But I haven't critically thought about it. I don't know. Hooverson, you're calling us from Pretoria. What are your thoughts?
One is, Clement, we have a lot of problems in South Africa now. Some things that are not worth fighting for. Myself, towards the Trump thing, I think the guy is just complimenting the president. There's nothing wrong about that. And then we have white people who can't speak English, they only speak Afrikaans. We have also black people who can't speak Zulu. So if a person comes to you and say, hey, Clement, it may be a Zulu, speak a nice Zulu, where did you learn it? It's a compliment. There is no need for you to fight that person. As now, you can go to Paris, when you get there, you speak French. You'll be surprised, like, a person of color speaking fluent French. You will be more excited and wanted to know where did you learn how to speak French, what's your background and everything. So it's more like of a compliment.
Okay.
You must not just get angry of everything that is happening. We have a lot of things that are happening in the world.
Yeah, look, and Hoverson, to be clear, I do think sometimes there are instances of racism there, right? And you must get angry about it if it's an incident of racism. I do think you must be concerned. But I'm saying it's not every point. It's not every person who is a racist who says that to you. That, I suppose, is the point that I'm making. Mimi in Hyde Park, what do you think? Good morning.
Hi, Clement. Good morning. So I agree with you in that, context really, really matters. So I went to an apartheid all-Indian school called JSS, and when I still meet people that schooled with me, and they say, well, you clean up well for a JSS girl. Look at you, like you speak so well and whatever. That's lovely because, we all kind of went through that crappy education system, and so we've come out on the other side, and when we've got these really awesome people who are confident and speak well, even though we were marginalized with our education. However, I had a strange experience with white female who said to me, and like you, I tried to take the good out of it first. She said to me, "You're so well spoken," and of course, immediately I said, "Oh, thank you." And then she said, "Yes, you have a very different accent." So I said, "Oh," and then she continued and said, "You don't sound like, for somebody who came from Durban, you don't sound like a Durban person." I'm not from Durban. I'm from Joburg.
Yeah, that's a wrong assumption to make.
That was weird. That was weird. I realized, okay, this is one of those things.
Yes,
Actually,
yeah.
It's a backhanded, it's very backhanded. What do you want me to say, Auntie? Must I say how you like your biryani, hot or spicy or mild? How you want me to talk like?
Yeah, no, that's weird.
And I thought, sheepers.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's like saying, Mimi. That's like saying, "What's your favorite meal?" And when you say prawns or whatever, like, really, not curry? That's weird.
Not curry, exactly.
Mimi.
I'm sure you make lovely samosas. I've also been told that a lot.
Yeah, I get it. No, that's terrible.
Trump, Trump is an equal opportunity offender. He
Yeah,
take
no.
it from whence it comes.
No, that one is, Trump. That's why I'm like, let's forget about. No, they can say, "I'm sure you make lovely samosas." That's crazy, Mimi. Thank you for raising that example because, that is wild, and that's really different. And when you get to that point, I think you need to say to people, that is actually offensive. You don't do that. You don't say that. Like, you don't assume that I'm from Durban just because I am Indian, South African. That's wild. Michelle, you are in Johannesburg. Hi.
Hi, thanks very much.
Sure.
Trump, in my opinion, wasn't giving a neutral compliment. It's
We agree there.
It's a microaggression wrapped in condescension, and it reflects exactly why Trump's history, legal cases, racist slurs, policy rollbacks, Project 2025, makes this moment unmistakably racist. It's not just a one-offhand comment. It's the latest proof in a long pattern. Trump doesn't just talk in a racist way, he acts on it.
Absolutely.
And it's not eloquence, it's entitlement.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Michelle. And take out of the Trump context now. Can it be a compliment or can it not?
Well, it depends who it's coming from, but in my opinion, no, it's usually, it's patronizing and it's racist.
Okay, Michelle in Johannesburg, thank you for your thoughts. Yes, some of the WhatsApp voice notes.
Hi, Clement. You guys, you are just against Donald Trump. What is wrong with that? I work with the Zulu people. There are some who can speak Sepedi. I say to them, where did you learn Sepedi? You're speaking a very proper Sepedi. Where did you learn it? Where is the problem there? There's no problem. But because it's Donald Trump who's saying it, that is why you're playing it on radio. You see the problem. This is not an issue.
Unfortunately, Clement, I can't agree with Trump saying that to the Liberian president that it's a compliment. It's condescending because as a president, you are supposed to know that in Liberia, the language is English. That's the language that they speak. You are supposed to know that, or the people around you are supposed to inform you that this person speaks proper English, if that is one of the things that they look at. But complimenting a president on his speech that is condescending. From another president, that is condescending. Sam.
Morning, Clement. Morning, Clement. What a great show. Yeah, you see this guy, Trump. He's condescending. He has this biased view towards like black people. That man is racist. It's very funny how he will turn the racism on South Africa and claim that there is a white genocide. Yet he himself, that man is an inborn racist. How dare he questions where this man went to school? Does he mean that in Africa there are no good schools that have good teachers that teach proper English? This man is condescending. It's not a compliment. He's just expressing how he belittles so much the African continent, such that anyone outside America can speak good English. There are no good schools in Africa that can train children, that can train presidents, leaders to speak good English. No, he's just something else. This man is just something else.
Clement, I think it's racism. I think it bluntly racism, because when someone says that they have this thing that you are better than your people. I remember at one stage I was at the restaurant. I had my books. I was just returning the library books, and I started at restaurant with some coffee, and I was finishing one of the last book. And then someone says, if you can tell your people to be like you, to someone else that can sound like a compliment, but that's not a compliment. That's just total racism. And Trump, that was just racism, because racism will never tell you that I'm racist right now or I'm racism. Hear me out. But it will just come in a way that in such fashion. So that was just racism. And when someone compliments you like that, especially if someone is white, just know that it's just racism raising its ugly head, Sfiso.
Yeah, Sfiso, I disagree with that. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be assuming things like that with every single person I deal with. As I say, again, I particularly I've had bosses who are white, who know my story, who know where I come from, who know my background, who know the schools I went to, who know the opportunities I didn't have. And yet, when they compliment me like that, I don't go around thinking, oh, how dare you be a racist towards me? Again, because there are people who will listen to me selectively. Again, I'm not saying there are no cases where some people are racist and they are condescending when they said that. But I'm saying the biggest mistake you would make, well, at least in my view, is making that assumption every time you get a compliment. So if my cousin can say it considering the context, why can't my boss say it if my boss considers the same context? Yeah, I don't know. I just think, yeah, we live in a society where we must be angry about everything. Everything. And sometimes we need to pause and ask ourselves as individuals, not as part of a community, but as individuals, why does this? What's my unique circumstance here? And if you think that you can reasonably conclude that the person is being condescending towards you, then great. Call them out and do whatever you want to do. But to always make that assumption is a bit weird to me. Joel, you're calling from False Loras. What do you think?
Hi, good morning, and morning to the 702 listeners. Look, I concur with some of our people saying, when I say our people, brothers and sisters, talking to the radio, I actually of the view that I support President Donald Trump, because several years, many years ago, I was working for Thompson, sorry to mention the company. So we had a promotion of Johannesburg City tour. Now, when we were driving through Houghton, the way articulated at that time, she was taken by surprise. She started saying, "Oh, wow, which school did you go?" You know. So I'm taking it as a complimentary.
Why was she taken by surprise, Joe?
Because she knows my background and that I did not have a facility. I was not privileged. Yes.
Oh, so she knew your context. Okay. Because,
Indeed.
Got it, all right. Because it's different when someone says, oh, you speak well, because they think as a black person you can never speak good English. That is a different thing. Again, that person doesn't consider any context. So in this case, when someone has considered that, oh, but you grew up in places like this, or maybe you couldn't even finish school because the apartheid government at the time was on your case. you finished at grade 5, and yet you're able to express yourself in an incredible way, given your circumstances. And then you say, that's the reason why I'm saying you speak so well and I'm complimenting you. There's a consideration there of context. It's 5 minutes before 10.
702 delivers
on the matters that matter to you.
Hi, my name is Linda Forson, and 702 is definitely my SMS. Save my soul and sanity on the roads in the morning and in the afternoons, because it gives me a time to listen and not get irritated while I'm driving or become irritating when I'm driving. So thank you, 702. Keep up the good work.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts,
so we can deliver more on what matters to you.
702 listens.
Let's walk the talk.
Quiet, please.
The Wimbledon experience in Mzansi is back at Amex Tennis Town Monte Casino between 11 and 13 July 2025. Enjoy VIP hospitality, the ultimate big screen experience, and more than just strawberries and cream. Buy your tickets now using your Amex card on Howler and get 50% off on limited tickets. Amex Tennis Town, the Championships Wimbledon experience with the Mzansi advantage. Tennis is better with Amex.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is streets ahead. Warrior Paints, affordable, lasting luxury.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
Doing the right thing has never sounded this good. The Office of the Tax Ombud brings you to the launch of their annual awareness campaign, Smart Taxpayers Do the Right Thing. Catch 702 Music with Pushaza Sibiya live from Menlyn Park Shopping Center next to Starbucks this Saturday with the Office of the Tax Ombud from 2 to 6 p.m. Join us to learn more about your tax rights and compliance, from lodging complaints against SARS, checking the status of existing ones, to speaking with tax ombud representatives, all while enjoying the smooth sounds of 702. 702 Music, live from Menlyn Park Shopping Center this Saturday with the Office of the Tax Ombud on 702.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
2 minutes before 10.
Morning, Clement and 702 listeners. Spiso here from Roodepoort. So my case is a bit, I take it as a compliment, and it also kind of eats me up inside. Well, it used to. Where, I grew up in a Model C school, so obviously we speak English, we roll our tongues when we are speaking. What ate me up is every time I go to Eastern Cape, the villages, so I'm Xhosa. So when I go to Eastern Cape and I try to speak Xhosa, I know how to speak Xhosa, but my accent is a bit off because I'm Model C. So when I speak Xhosa, it sounds a bit funny. So they used to give me a name. They used to call me George.
Oh no!
In Eastern Cape, I took it both as a compliment, and it also ate me up because it meant my English is well. I'm well spoken in English, but my Xhosa is lacking. So that didn't sit well with me.
No, George, that's unfair. I'm joking. Aye, man. But I do think that, for instance, someone on the WhatsApp line, Tahuzile, says, "Hi, Clement. No one gets complimented for speaking Sesotho or Zulu, Swahili. Speaking white languages are seen as having put in an effort and being civilized. No, actually, you're wrong. Because I've got friends who speak fluent Xhosa. And I'm always impressed with the Xhosa that they speak, especially because I know their context. I know that they didn't grow up in the Eastern Cape, or they didn't grow up like in areas where you knew they spoke Xhosa, or even in their homes where they grew up, they were not really speaking isiXhosa that often. And they went to Model C schools. So I do have friends that I compliment. And I'm like, oh, wow, you speak such great Xhosa. Oh, you speak such great Zulu. Why? Because I know the context. So what? They must be offended? Yeah, I don't know. It's 10 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Maki Malapo. Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina insists her department has provided all necessary support to municipalities to ensure efficient access to water. Majodina says challenges faced by the various metros result in failures in providing water to South Africans. Majodina was speaking on 702 this morning, a day after tabling her department's budget in Parliament. She told the National Assembly that most challenges at municipal level emanate from a lack of technical skills and resources required to meet the needs. The assertion comes as residents across the country living in major cities like Tshwane, Johannesburg and Cape Town struggle with a consistent water supply. Majodina says many of the challenges of water supply are man-made and must be confronted.
We can play our role as per the Constitution to support municipalities, and we are doing exactly that, to support, but we cannot take over their responsibility. Where they are supposed to fix their leaks, it cannot be us who come and fix their assets. We give support, we give them grants to augment whatever they have.
Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says the planning for 3 new district hospitals is in the very early stages to address chronic overcrowding at many facilities. Delivering his budget vote address in Parliament yesterday, Motsoaledi said the new central hospitals will be located in Mpumalanga, the Northwest and the Northern Cape. As Action SA called for limits to be placed on foreign nationals seeking medical assistance, Motsoaledi said the strain on public facilities was as a result of a growing population. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says 6 new hospitals are at varying stages of construction to reduce the high demand in Gauteng, but also in underserved areas. But former doctor turned Action SA MP, Khosile Tlhape, said his party wants the constitution to be amended to limit foreign nationals' access to health facilities.
Section 27 should not talk about everyone. It's not time to be Father Christmas when our people are suffering. It should be specific to citizens. Our hospitals are being overrun by people from elsewhere.
But Motsoaledi said 86% of facilities are being used by South Africans and that rapid urbanization is contributing to overburdened facilities.
If we do nothing, the demeaning scenes we see often on our TV screens, like pregnant women sleeping on floors and chairs, will unfortunately be the order of the day.
However, he says new hospitals will take several years to plan, design, construct and commission. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
We move to the Western Cape courts where alleged baby snatcher Shamima Jacobs is due to make her second appearance in the Bellville Magistrates Court today. Jacobs is charged with kidnapping and defeating the ends of justice after police tracked her down to Tafelsig in Mitchell's Plain after the baby was abducted on June 28th. When Jacobs last appeared, the state asked for more time to collect bail information. Carlo Peterson has more.
The baby's mother, Iman Shamar, says she will be ready to face the infant's alleged kidnapper, Shamima Jacobs, in Bellville Magistrates Court today. After the matter was postponed for the state to obtain bail information last week, Shamar told EWN she was not ready to see Jacobs.
I'm having a lot of anxiety and I'm not able to handle it at this point. I just need to gather myself and just come much more prepared next time.
Shamar says she will be back in court for a possible bail hearing today, but would prefer it if Jacobs remains behind bars.
I don't think I'll feel safe if she's out on bail. No, not at all.
The prosecution is set to present the court with a bail profile for Jacobs when the matter proceeds today. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
Eastern Cape Judge President Clement Manyathela has labelled his persistence in interactions with High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo as negotiation and persuasion. He has been testifying before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal investigating allegations of sexual harassment against him. Yesterday, it was revealed the senior judge asked Mengo for photos 11 times on the first day they interacted on messaging service WhatsApp. Manyathela is accused of making unwanted sexual advances towards Mengo between 2021 and 2022. Zoleka Kodashe has the details.
Eastern Cape Judge President Clement Manyathela has spent his time on the stand desperately trying to discredit the evidence-in-chief of High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo. He says there was never a rebuff from the junior staffer, but that her rejection at the request that they be intimate was specific to that instance and was not recurring. The judge president testified that he was led to believe that he must continue pursuing the junior staffer after she told him to earn it upon his many requests for her photos. Evidence leader Advocate Salome Skeepers argued that the complainant said this because she did not know how to respond to an inappropriate request from the senior judge, but Manyathela disagrees.
I did not understand "and it" from an adult female to mean what we are saying now. She is not so well as to send a juicy picture. Is that what you are saying?
She's not well, but you are requesting her for a juicy picture.
Yes.
Why?
Why not?
Skeepers is expected to conclude with a cross-examination today. Zoleka Kodashe, Eyewitness News.
In East Africa, Kenyan President William Ruto has ordered police to shoot protesters targeting businesses in the legs, ensuring they are incapacitated but not killed. The UN and human rights groups have accused the police of using excessive force in the recent wave of anti-government protests. According to the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, 31 people were killed on Monday, more than 100 others were injured, and about 532 people arrested in the protests which hit the capital Nairobi and other major cities. However, the Kenya police say that 11 people died. The BBC reports that in an address yesterday, Ruto defended the police action, saying an attack on security forces would be a declaration of war against the country. He further warned his political rivals against sponsoring and using violent protests and unlawful means to forcibly remove him from power. Gold's trading at $3,320.44 an ounce. The rand's at 17.73 to the dollar, at 24.13 to the pound, at 20.80 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $70.26 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the Bearsrivier Drive. This is in the Krugersdorp area. This is between Notre Dame Road and the Cedar Road off-ramp. This is due to some delays that are being reported there. Please be on the lookout while traveling on the R28 rather. There's more delays in the Krugersdorp area. This is just as you approach Anthony Road due to an earlier accident.
A look at your weather. Clear skies in store for Gauteng. Today, temperatures are set to peak at highs of 17 and 18 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina insists her department has provided all necessary support to municipalities to ensure efficient access to water.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
We're listening to you. You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Nine minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. And as always, I appreciate your contribution on the 702 open line. Your thoughts through the calls, the WhatsApp, the tweets, always appreciated. Remember, at 11 o'clock, we're going to do the Thursday dialogue, and today we'll be discussing the complex link between politicians and the criminal elements, especially in light of what's been revealed by the KZN Commissioner of Police, General Kwanazi. So we'll chat about that at 11 o'clock. But right now, we start with our Hanging Out feature.
Hanging Out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
And today we're hanging out with Nonkululeko Gobodo. She is a powerhouse. We've had her before on the show. In fact, the last time we spoke, we had her on the show on this feature was in 2020. We spoke via Zoom, and it was during COVID. And in fact, what you've realized is that all those conversations we've actually had in 2020 via Zoom, I'm trying to bring back the guests so that we can have a conversation and we can have them in studio. But Nonkululeko Gobodo is our guest this morning on our Hangout feature. She's a powerhouse. You may know her. She's always referred to as the country's first black female chartered accountant. She's received many other accolades. She's the Chancellor of the Walter Sisulu University. She's won many awards, and I'm glad that this hour we're just going to celebrate her as we get to know her. And I'm sure her story is just going to inspire you like it has so many people. Mam Nonkululeko, welcome back to 702. Good morning.
Morning, Clement, and your listeners.
Thank you so much for coming through. Are you surviving the winter? Because the last 2 days have been really cold.
Yeah, it's been really, really cold. It's cold. I mean, this winter has just been cold.
Throughout. For some reason, I haven't really felt it until 2 days ago. And I said to some friends, oh, why is it so cold today? This was yesterday. And then they said, but it's been cold. So I guess to your point, it really has been cold. Okay, so does it still surprise you that people get inspired by your story? Because you've done many interviews. I'm sure you receive testimonies from people who say, we are so inspired by you, someone who was the first black female chartered accountant in the country. Not only because of that, because of what you went to achieve afterwards. Does it still surprise you that people are still inspired by your journey?
Very much so.
Yeah?
I'm like, when are they going to leave me alone? Very much so. But I mean, what surprises me most is how the young ones are inspired. I'm like, you are young. I mean, I've been a chartered accountant now for, 37 years, 38 years this year.
Yeah.
You were not even born
yes.
when I qualified. But I'm like, no, they're never going to leave me alone. Just rest and relax.
The story is just too strong. It's just too empowering. So for those who maybe don't know your history in as far as where you come from, maybe just let's explain to our listeners how your childhood was like when you were growing up in the Eastern Cape. Did you always know that I do want to be a chartered accountant? When did it dawn on you that this is a career opportunity to take?
No, I mean, I grew up like everyone else, young, not knowing what I want to do. On top of that, I was a quiet girl and my mother was worried about me. Came a time when she expressed these fears by, Lomtana, I don't know what's going to happen to this child. So I had a low self-esteem, didn't know who I was, what I wanted to do. Like, the average person, really. Until, I had this opportunity to work at my father's panel beating shop where I got exposed to even the profession. I didn't know what I wanted to do, let alone knowing about the profession. And then I found myself, I found that, I'm not this thing that I believed that I was. Even if I'm quiet, I'm still smart and strong, and I had clarity of what I wanted to do. So I could go back to my father and say, now I know what I want to do. I want to be a chartered accountant. They were persuading me to go and do medicine and things like that. So I was saved from a terrible mistake.
Because once you became a chartered accountant, you realize, actually, I enjoy this thing. I mean, you go further then to start your own auditing firm, Gobodo Incorporated. You end up with several branches all over South Africa. What do you think was the support structure for you? Because, I mean, there weren't a lot of black women, especially, starting auditing firms that become so successful like that. You have branches around the country. What was your experience, and what would you say were the elements that supported you in that journey?
I suppose just growing up in Mthatha, because Mthatha was just such a vibrant city at that time. Town, I can't even call it a city. There was a university there. The first black firm of chartered accountants was started in my hometown by Professor Nkuhlu. There were black professionals there, black business people. So it was very easy to dream about things like that, right? And very early on, when I was still doing articles, I could have that vision of one day having my own firm. And what really motivated me about that was that I grew up in a society that said, as a black woman, there are things that I couldn't do. And I was really just not going to allow that story to define who I am or how far I can go in life. So I would have this dream of one day I'm going to have my own practice.
Yeah.
It was so alive, Clement. I embodied that vision. I used to have imaginations. We didn't know anything about imagination and visualization at that time.
Vision boards,
nothing like that. So I could just see my office's 2-story building with my name at the door or gate. I didn't know that later on I'll have not just one office, but many offices with my name on them. So I suppose, when they say I'm a mentor to others, I know what having a mentor, even a distant mentor, does to someone.
That's amazing. 011-883-0702. You can join this conversation by calling us there. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. We're also playing some of your favorite songs. Tell me about why you like Mafiki Zolo's Ndihamba Nawe. Why is it so special to you?
Just trying to be naughty as well.
I love it at weddings because, if you go to a wedding and they don't play this song, Ndihamba Nawe, then angazi badlalan.
No, for me, this song is, I always consider myself a serious person.
Yeah.
Right? It just allows me to just loosen up, just have fun, just forget who you are. And I enjoy it. I really enjoy it.
All right.
At parties, I really enjoy it.
Yes, let's enjoy it with you. I mean, are there people who listen to this song and they don't dance?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
It just gets you to start moving somehow. Do you dance to the song when it plays?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah?
I jump. I jump.
As
and
an
dance.
introvert that you are.
Exactly. Surprising myself, actually.
That's amazing. That's amazing. There's some WhatsApp voice notes that are coming through on 072 702 1702.
Good morning, Clement, and congratulations on having the pioneer Queen Lady Gobodo in your studio this morning. I know many people, male and female, that have been inspired by her life journey. Please ask her, though, what her opinion and perspective is on all the big name accounting firms that have been implicated in unethical behavior, even going as far as full-blown fraud. Greg from Kempton.
Oh, Greg, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, you've been asked this question, I'm sure, many, many times, right? Especially, I mean, there was a time when we've seen the spotlight on the accounting profession over the last couple of years. When you look at KPMG, Nkonki, Deloitte, and some chartered accountants like Quicken, there's a lot of companies that have been spoken about in the media. When you look at that, what's been your thought?
Yeah, that's a sad one. I'm always sad when I'm asked this question because we qualified a long time ago, right? The culture was different. The profession was sort of sacred, you know. They used to say, you must not just be independent, you must be seen to be independent.
Yes.
And integrity and all of those things were just so much top of mind in our lives. But I suppose, you know, we live in a world now where wealth creation is such a big thing. And I suppose, I mean, everybody, when you see people, you know, acquiring wealth and the kind of lifestyle that they live, one is tempted. But I also want to say that when we live in a culture of corruption that's permeating society everywhere, I was just surprised that it could even touch this sacred profession because I thought we were untouchable by things like that. But here it is. It touched us. But, you know, when we're going through at the height of it, I was like, when are we going to reach the bottom? But, you know, it would be like, no, we have not reached. There would be like a worse scandal than I've seen before.
Yeah.
Which was a wake-up call, I think, for us as accountants to say, we've dropped the ball, we missed it somewhere. Because, I mean, if we are not going to have a culture of integrity, and as top leadership, that tone at the top is not coming through. We are going to have things like that. And I hope we've woken up and going back to the drawing board, basics. Let's just go back to basics.
Yeah. So when did you decide that, okay, this is time, I think I've done my part here, it's time to go? And we'll talk about some of the stuff you speak about in your book, Awaken to My True Self. I mean, you touch on this. I suppose there are people that were shocked when you decided to decide, okay, I'm done here. My part is finished. When was that point for you? What happened that made you realize you're done doing this in the way you were doing it?
So, I mean, you remember we were those people who were pioneers breaking ground and having these big visions of, we'll reach the top. So you had this dream of a big black accounting firm that is challenging the status quo, challenging the established firms. And you achieve it beyond anything you can ever dream of, right? So it was such a high moment of satisfaction. But also remember, after the merger of Sizwe and Gobodo, we were leading the firm, the two of us, Victor Sekese and myself, sort of co-leading the firm. And I mean, those first 3 years were really just crucial because mergers fail and people were expecting us to fail. Two black firms, they're going to fight and it will be the end of them. So once we crossed that Rubicon and we knew that we were safe, this firm is going nowhere, there was this sense within the firm that we can't have two leaders anymore. We need one leader to lead the firm forward. Because if it was led by myself, it would have had a different journey. If it's led by Victor, it will have a different journey. And I was the only founder remaining at the time. So it made sense for me to allow the new generation to take the firm forward. Not that it was an easy decision, because you don't know what's going to happen to your legacy. But because I was so satisfied with what I've achieved. The other thing, Clement, it was hard. It was hard. To do what we did was hard. So it was like, I need a break now.
Yeah, because, one of the things you explain so well in your book is how intricate a measure is. And we normally think, two black firms come together, you sign on the dotted line. But those things are quite complex. I imagine, for instance, like to use a practical example, which I think you use in the book, is like the culture, the two different cultures of the companies. How do you measure that into one? Because you can't say, we're going to just take, this is the culture and the values of Gobodo Incorporated, and let's just use that for this entire firm. You've got to take from both. How did you navigate that?
Yeah, first of all, the big thing was the integration of the two firms. Remember, we're quite sizable at that time. And although you've prepared yourself for the merger, that was hard. So for a while, we're focusing on the integration, right? This thing of the culture, we didn't feel it immediately. But as we were integrating, moving people into the same buildings, and so on and so forth, now it was like, you could feel now the culture. And when it started, we didn't notice, but I noticed myself. I was saying, these Susan Zaluba people.
Yeah.
And they were saying, these Gobodo people. That's when I realized that there's tension now. There's tension now. And as a leader, you have to wake up at times like that, right? Because if you miss those things, the environment will go so toxic that even the vision is threatened. So we had to wake up at that time and say, no, culture is an issue. We need to do something about it. And you can't really choose one because there's value in both. How do you merge the two?
Yeah.
And create a new one, actually, out of that.
Yes, a new one must emerge. Yeah, but what a great legacy you have left. You can't speak about auditing firms without speaking about Sizwe Nzaluba Gobodo. What an amazing legacy to know that at the top of many people's minds, when they think about great top auditing firms, they mention one that you took part in creating.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's really so humbling.
Yeah, it's 10:30. Let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines with Maki Mulapo, and then we'll come back and take more of your calls and your WhatsApps as we continue our conversation with Nonkululeko Gobodo, who's our guest on our Hanging Out feature this morning. Maki, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. The Military Veterans Department says it will resume the rollout of the military veterans pension once a review process is completed. This follows concerns raised by a group of approximately 300 military veterans about delays in receiving their money. The department says its current challenges are linked to budgetary constraints. Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Benenge has accused High Court Secretary Andi Swamengo of lying to the Judicial Conduct Tribunal investigating allegations of sexual harassment against him. Benenge is accused of making unwanted sexual advances towards the junior staffer between 2021 and 2022. A tribunal is sitting in Sandton in Johannesburg to probe the allegations. And a top European court is today set to rule on whether double Olympic champion Caster Semenya can be required to lower her testosterone levels to compete as a woman in a key decision on contested gender testing. The European Court of Human Rights decision comes after a row engulfed the 2024 Paris Olympics over the gender of an Algerian boxing champion. Those are the headlines, this Eyewitness News and more at 11 o'clock or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, travelling on the N14 south, we've got some delays reported towards Malibongwe Drive. This is as you head towards Mulder's Drift. While travelling on the N1 North, roadworks are taking place along this route between Malibongwe Drive and Winnie Mandela Drive. They're causing about a 15-minute hold-up between these 2 points. So please try to avoid. If you're heading towards areas like Woodmead, Sandton as well, try using the Mike 1 North instead. If you are traveling in Limbo Park, some delays on the N3 South towards the Alexandra off-ramp, Vincent Chabalala Road. Please be on the lookout there as well. And traveling on the N12 West, some delays between Edenville Road and the Kilulis interchange. I'll have more updates for you. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Choose your health. Choose Clicks with a great health savings until the 21st of July. Save 20% on Euroclear 6 Veg Caps, now 144 Rand, or 28 Veg Caps, now 211 Rand. Buy any 3 Zimplex products, including skincare and adults, excluding gummies, and get the cheapest one free. Get any 3 Vital products and get the cheapest one free. And buy Effaflu C Cold and Flu 20 effervescent tablets for 120 Rand per pack. It's Clicks Club Card's 30th birthday. Get more deals and bigger discounts exclusive to members. And if you're not a member yet, you can sign up today. Choose your health. Choose Clicks. Feel good. Pay less.
Calling all football fans. Score goals galore with Hollywood bets in a super football showdown. The finest clubs in the world will go head-to-head to be crowned the best of the best. Ready for your chance to strike it big? Get in on the thrilling action and take a shot at a share of 100,000 Rand in cash or betting vouchers. Bet 10 Rand or more on any club World Cup fixture between June and July 2025. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Most people already know that the smartest way to get through tolls is with a tag. With a tag, you don't need to carry cash or even use your credit card. You don't even have to stop or open a window. To drive smart, download the Sanral app to link your cards and manage top-up payments for your convenience. For more info, visit sunral.co.za. Tags are the way to go. Sunral, an agency of the Department of Transport.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
I would imagine that no American company is going to propose any deal at all in South Africa just as a direct result of these tariffs.
I would agree with that. I think it just almost put a red cross over the southern tip of Africa as an investment target. Clearly now there's another shot across the bow that's this time I think hit the bow.
Andrew Bowman, CEO of Corporate and Advisory at Deal Leaders International.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Bank, a leading Pan-African bank and proud sponsor of the African Blockchain Report 2024. Absa is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
It's 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. We are hanging out with Nonkululeko Gobodo. She's known as being South Africa's first black female chartered accountant, but she's got such a rich, inspiring story. She is the Vice Chancellor of the Walter Sisulu University, really a leading figure in the business world. I'm taking your calls on 011-883-0702, WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. Stembele, you are in Johannesburg. Good morning. Hello, Stembele, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, and you, Clem.
Sure, man. Go ahead. Yeah, have you interacted with Mam Nonkululeko or her business before?
Yes, with the firm. First of all, I would like to say flowers to her, gratitude and love to Umam Gobodo, you know. Her firm once gave me an opportunity to brand one of their containers, and at that time it was located at Soweto Theatre. So they were rolling out these containers. They were meant to be like a business clinics to assist, you know, those small and medium enterprises. And we did like a nice, beautiful graffiti in one of their containers, branding them for Isizwe Nsaluba Gobodo, you know. And it was a big thing at the time. I think it was a couple of years back, you know, for their head office. I think at that time it was in somewhere in Sandton. So yeah, I just want to recognize Umam Gobodo for that and for her story. And I would like to find out, man, those business clinic containers, did they eventually were rolled out in the townships because they were meant to assist small.
How many years ago was it, Stembele?
Clem, if I'm not mistaken, could be 10 years back, if not 8, somewhere there.
Okay, got you. Yeah, Stembele, thank you for your call, man. In Johannesburg. 10 years back, were you still there then? No, you had gone, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to know when was it, because there's a time then when you were out. Let's talk about that, in fact, before we get to the next song. So I had asked you about the decision to leave and how you said it was not an easy one. When you left, what did you decide to do? I mean, we went on an interesting journey, or shall we call it a spiritual journey? Tell the listeners about that, because I think that's a fascinating story you tell in the book.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, when you've been a CEO most of your life, and amazing how we identify with the role itself. The first thing is, okay, if I'm no longer a CEO, who am I then?
Who am I?
Yes. So we just struggle with that for a while. Then you have to find yourself beyond the roles that you play, you know, because you then realize that if then I'm not the role, then who am I, right? But I mean, I have always just struggled with some emotional, psychological problems. And we didn't have enough information back then about these things. I mean, I always listen to your show and I'm like, we really need to address these things because we struggled for many years not understanding what the issues were. We knew nothing about childhood trauma or anything like that. So I went through that journey, and on my own, you know, I never thought of actually seeing a therapist or anything like that. So I had to depend on spiritual books, you know, videos, self-examination, and things like that. And I'm always proud of the fact that out of that, you know, I found what the issues were, and I was able to deal with them and address them and help others through my book and my talks to face their mental challenges because they can be dealt with.
True. And because I love the story you tell about the role you were playing in the church, going to read about other religions, for instance. What did that gift you with? Because I'm on that journey now where I call it a spiritual era, where I'm just like reading so many books, spiritual books, but I'm trying to understand also the perspectives of other religions as well. And it's such a beautiful space to be in, to be so inquisitive, because I always believe the minute you make an intentional decision that I'm seeking knowledge, the universe responds with knowledge. Like everywhere I go, there's something spiritual about it. Every book I take has some spiritual elements. It's almost like it's conspiring to give me what I'm seeking. So what was it for you? What did it gift you?
No,
that
I mean,
journey?
You know, born again Christian, the church is just so religious. It's structured. It's like you can practice your religion and your spirituality within these
are the
walls.
frameworks.
Yes, these walls. But at some point, you start to ask questions. Things just don't make sense, you know. And I suppose there's a time in your life when you start to ask those big questions, those deep questions. And we're like, no, these stories, they seem like fairy tales now to me. I'm no longer satisfied with these answers. But the church had created such a fear around exploring outside
or even asking
of
a question. How dare you question?
Exactly. And I just got tired of, I can't ask the questions, you know. I was no longer afraid to ask the questions anymore. So you get to that place where you're seeking for answers. And I realized that these answers are not here. They're not in the church. That's when I had the courage to start exploring. As you say, it's amazing when you start exploring that you come across this material. And, you know, you have to trust yourself in that journey because you also don't want to get lost.
True.
But, I mean, when you trust yourself, you can discern, this one is not for me. This one doesn't make sense. for me, and then you find that material that resonates with you. And for me, it's always, is it growing me? Is it wisdom? Does it resonate with me? That's how I would choose the material.
Yeah. Where do you think you are now spiritually? Are you more of a spiritual person where you've got a relationship with the Almighty or the higher power, or are you still more religious and like church is quite central to your belief?
I mean, it's always a good foundation. I'm always grateful for the foundation that I got from the church, but I've become more spiritual now because you need to have your own relationship with God.
Can be defined by your pastor.
And I found that there's a wider spiritual world out there. I mean, we always in the church spoke of the Holy Spirit, but who is the Holy Spirit? And I found that no, the Holy Spirit is wider than we thought, right? And this concept of God is wider than we think. You know, there are, spiritual guides. I talk in my book about hearing these voices. I never questioned where these voices are coming from. And when I got to the church, I could explain the voices. But I realized that no, I have a relationship with my ancestors. For instance, I dream about them. They tell me things that are to come. And in the church, they used to be called demons, And now I know no, they're just spiritual. They are in a spiritual place. I'm also spiritual. I can communicate with them. They'll beat me up in the church for saying things like this.
Yeah.
And there are other spiritual guides, wider than I had imagined at the time. So for me, it's just a rich place. It's a rich place.
Understanding the magnitude of this God it's so fulfilling. It's so rich because I think I also realized that for the longest time we've minimized him because we think he exists only within this context. Ooh, what a big mistake, because then he's not a big God.
Exactly.
He can't be.
Exactly.
If he exists just within this context, is he really as big? And I realize when you read more and you understand the magnitude of this creator, then it's mind-boggling. It's amazing. All right, so I've got more questions. I've got some thoughts that are coming through on the WhatsApp line as well that I'll get to. But I want us to get to our next song because we must also play songs while we talk. The next one. So who should we play? Should we do Brenda and the Big Dudes? Should we do Josh Groban? What do you think?
I had given you one.
We also have
Usu
Tukazi Arosi. Should we do that one?
Yes.
Tell me about it. I've never heard this song.
No, Sutukazi. I mean, this one is like Muntomnyama. Sutukazi was my cousin who passed away this year. So it's like we're still mourning her. It's a tribute to her also. But I mean, he's talking about Muntomnyama has to wake up, which is my thing. We need to wake up as black people.
I mean, your book is titled Awaken to True Self. You are calling on us to awaken to our true self. All right, looking forward to hearing it and condolences on her passing. Here is Umtomnyama by Sutukazi Arosi.
Sililanga wemtomnyama waphela umzonsundu baphela abantu madoda iyolololoma yeyelelema ubuntu ubuntu waphela umsonsundu madoda waphela uzulumalando wemtomnyama wemtomnyama buke makandelo songizizwe sikhala ngawe khawubuke makandelo Janina, waphela umntonyama, waphela umsonsundu wenze njani na, saphela isizwe, woyinina, inina, wemntonyama, woyinina, mntonyama,
What a beautiful song. Wentomnyama by Situgazi Arosi. It's going up to 10 minutes before 11.
Join Food Forward SA for our annual Mandela Day packing event on 18 July at the Expo Centre, Nasrec, Johannesburg. Volunteer 67 minutes of your time to help sort and pack nutritious food for vulnerable communities. Book your spot now at webtickets.co.za for 67 Rand and take action to honour Tata Madiba's legacy. Food Forward SA, securing quality food, nourishing lives.
Proudly South African brings the energy to the 702 Walk the Talk on Sunday, the 27th of July at the Freedom Park in Tshwane. Swing by their lively water station where mascot Lolo Arona will keep spirits high with signature dance moves. And of course, as thousands work with purpose, this is a reminder that buying local fuels small businesses and help create jobs. Every step counts. Every swipe matters. Support South African-made products and help build a stronger economy. Vote with your wallet. Buy local to create jobs.
It took patience, perseverance, and audacity to get my first call-up and win with the Booker. And we did it together. That's why I, Dion Free, partnered with African Bank so I can win big with a 60-month fixed deposit. Patience brings results. Join the bank that backs you. Get a 12.8% return at expiry on your investment. Visit africanbank.co.za or a branch for assistance. African Bank, audacity to believe. African Bank is a licensed financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
As the official retail partner of the Springboks, Pick n Pay is proud to back the box and give you the chance to be the ultimate smart supporter with Pick n Pay ASAP. Money or the box on 702. WhatsApp your name, ID number, and the word ASAP to 072 702 1702. You could face the ultimate choice, a mystery Springbok supporter prize, or Pick and Pay ASAP vouchers worth up to 2,000 Rand. It's time to show your box spirit. Money or the box with Pick and Pay ASAP. Friday on 702 Drive with John Perlman. T's and C's on primemediaplus.com.
Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
8 minutes before 11 o'clock. Got a message here from Anonymous who says, "Hi Clement, you're in the company of greatness there. I'm an alma mater of UNITRA and I studied there at the same time when Nonkululeko was a student there, as well as when Professor Kuhlu was the Vice Chancellor. So I feel that I was blessed to be in the same space with the epitome of greatness. Nonkululeko was always a lady, even years after she was qualified as the first. Humbleness never left her. Proud of your achievements always, will always be your cheerleader." And then another one says, "Hi Clement, since Nonkululeko there is really an inspiration to all of us. She did not just produce chartered accountants, she also produced forensic investigators like us, IT auditors, etc. I was trained at SNG under Peter Gross. One day I met her in the lift and she was so humble. Siyabulela sisi. Sinesonka ngoku." What does that mean? Is that bread?
Yes.
Okay, sonka is bread.
We have a livelihood now.
Okay, great. That's beautiful. Thank you for that message. There's someone who's asking about how you managed being a CEO at the time and raising kids, like being a family person, but also this big responsibility that you had.
Yeah, that was a difficult one to navigate because you're ambitious, you have your own goals, but you also have a responsibility to your kids. And I divorced when I was 34 with 3 kids. So you can imagine hard decisions had to be made. And I mean, balance is a myth, to be honest, because you make your own decisions. And I chose my career, at great cost to my children because, I was never there. I missed their big moments. But you think you are doing it for them as well. I could give them the kind of education, lifestyle that they enjoyed. You think that is all. But it's later on in life when they remind you how you used to live them, that you realize it was actually hard on them. And we have to attend to those wounds that were created at that time. It's not an easy decision.
What advice then do you have for maybe, some parents let's say specifically single parents who are thinking, yes, I'm never at home, I never spend time with the kids, but I'm building a future for them. Because as you say, that's what you think in the moment, that you want to give them the best education, the best future. But then they're also going to feel some wounds. They're going to feel your absence. So what would be your advice to someone who's going through that now?
Just more consciousness around the impact, and try to create that quality time with your children. And if you are married, you really have to find equity in between the two parents to provide that safe security for the children. But kids always need their mother. That's always the challenge. They need their mother more than their father. So there's really no easy way except just be a more conscious parent. This is what I would say.
Yeah. So out of all the work that you've done in the span of your career, what do you think is the proudest of them all for you? Or is that too unfair of a question? Because all of them have been big moments.
Yeah, but I mean, achieving my dream of a big black firm.
Yeah.
And the impact that it had in the market and how I was able to develop more and more chartered accountants and all these other disciplines that we're talking about. Always just raising leaders, let me say.
Mm-hmm. So your book, a lot of people are asking about your book, Awaken to My True Self, because we spoke a lot about it throughout our chat. Is it still available in bookstores?
I hope so. I've not checked lately.
Okay. So they can go to bookstores, and then just check, ask for a book, Awaken to My True Self, those of you that are interested to read it. It's fascinating. I've read it, and I've recommended it to friends as well, because what a powerful story and journey that she shares with us that is so inspirational. I'm Nonkululeko Gobodo. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I enjoyed this interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I enjoyed having you here as well. It's 3 minutes now before 11 o'clock.
Hey, did you see the office of the tax ombudsman stand at Menlyn Mall? It's right next to Starbucks.
No way. What are they doing here?
It's filing tax season, and they're helping people who have complaints against SARS. If you feel like you've been treated unfairly by SARS, they can help. And it's completely free.
That's smart. I didn't know they help for free.
Yep, smart taxpayers do the right thing. Visit the office of the tax ombudsman at Menlyn Mall from Friday 11 July until Saturday 12 July.
Okay, truck 7, that has 0 warning lights. Truck 8, it's just been serviced. I guess we're running like a well-oiled machine. Where would I be without MyWay's comprehensive cover for my vans and trucks? Plus, cover for my customers' orders with goods and transit insurance. I guess we'll never know.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. MyWay is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. MyWay. Live your way.
Hey besties, welcome to my kitchen tour, or should I say, my new walk-in wardrobe. Over here we have the pantry, now home to my jeans and shirts, all color-coded. Oh, and the air fryer, literally the perfect place for my makeup brushes. And who would have thought, the oven is the place to store my handbags.
Who needs a kitchen? Simply spend 200 Rand or more and you could win Simply Asia for a year. T's and C's apply. Simply Asia, connecting the Thai way.
The time to honor our past and step into a shared future as a team is here. Corporate and team entries for this year's 702 Walk the Talk are still open. Gather your colleagues together on Sunday, the 27th of July, to walk through the historic Freedom Park Heritage Site, past the national landmarks and finish at the Union Buildings. For corporate entries, visit primemediaplus.com. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park Heritage Site in the city of Tshwane, where footsteps become footprints.
Clement is on X
at The Real Clement M.
Remember, coming up after the news at 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Thursday dialogue. And today, we're going to be talking about this relationship or link, if you want to call it, between politicians and criminal elements, especially in the context of what Gogo Obrimachikri shared with us yesterday. It's 11 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Maki Malapo. We begin with news just in from France, where the European Court of Human Rights has ruled in favor of South African Olympic champion Caster Semenya. The court has found that Semenya was discriminated against because of her natural testosterone levels. In 2019, Semenya was barred from competing in certain women's track events after World Athletics introduced regulations requiring female athletes with differences in sexual development to medically lower their testosterone to eligible levels. Semenya initially challenged the rules at the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland, but her case and several appeals were dismissed by Swiss courts. Today, the court upheld a 2023 decision that the rules breached Semenya's rights to privacy, non-discrimination and effective legal protection. We'll have more on this story in our next bulletins. The Military Veterans Department says it will resume the rollout of the military veterans pension once a review process is completed. This follows concerns raised by a group of approximately 300 military veterans about delays in receiving their money. The department says its current challenges are linked to budgetary constraints. As a result, it says the regulations governing the disbursement of the military veterans pension need to be reviewed. The department's Mxoli Simkonza says the benefit is a vital intervention aimed at restoring the dignity of those who served the country.
Since the implementation of this benefit in November of 2023, over 4,378 military veterans have successfully received their military veterans pensions. The department continues to work closely with the Government Pensions Administration Agency to process and pay new beneficiaries as they are verified.
This week, Defence Minister Nonkululeko tabled a reduced budget of 57 billion rand while raising concern over how financial constraints continue to affect defence operations and planning. Defence Deputy Minister Bantu Holomisa has warned of escalating domestic threats and wants the military to enhance the country's internal security. Holomisa also says the ease of moving across Southern African Development Community borders into South Africa requires urgent attention. Holomisa was taking part in the debate on the Defence Department's budget tabled by Minister Nonkululeko yesterday. Manyathela raised concerns about the shrinking budget, saying it badly affects the military's operations and planning. Babala Ndenza has more.
Deputy Minister Bantu Holomisa says the Defence Force, like most departments, has not escaped the tentacles of state capture and corruption. Holomisa says another burning issue is the state of national security and growing domestic threats, including porous borders.
Many have questioned why our soldiers are deployed on external missions while internal threats continue to escalate. In this financial year, we must, in partnership with Parliament, take a strategic decision on how our military can enhance internal security in line with the constitutional mandate of the Republic of South Africa.
He says part of this decision must involve a deep assessment of whether the SANDF has proper equipment and capabilities to respond to threats, including natural disasters. Babala Ndenza, Eyewitness News.
The Judicial Conduct Tribunal has adjourned after evidence leader Advocate Salome Skeepers concluded her cross-examination of Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge. The short proceedings saw the Judge President being quizzed on his in-person and online interactions with High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo. Mbenenge has accused Mengo of lying to the fact-finding body, which was probing the allegations of sexual harassment against him. The Judge President is accused of making unwanted sexual advances towards the junior staffer between 2021 and 2022. The fact-finding body sitting in Sandton heard that 3 years ago, Mengo posted her sexual conversations with the senior judge on her WhatsApp status. She testified that she did this because she was extremely tired of inappropriate conversations with him and did not know what else to do. But the Judge President disputed this when quizzed by the evidence leader.
Describe this as a cry for help, a way of saying, here I am, being sent inappropriate content by someone older, someone who holds power over me, even someone's husband. Did you consider how that conduct made her feel?
She is lying. I dispute the version of the complainant. If you look at the language, if she would have had the audacity to address me in that fashion, then it says a lot about her.
We move to the courts, where the Pretoria High Court will deliver a sentence to a former apartheid-era police officer for the murder of student activist Caiphus Nyoka. 66-year-old Johan Marai pleaded guilty to fatally shooting Nyoka in 1987. Nyoka was shot dead at his Davidson home in Ekurhuleni at the age of 23. Thabiso Goba has more.
During the original inquest into Caiphus Nyoka's death, Johan Marai initially testified that the student activist was armed when he shot him, but in his guilty plea, Marai admitted that Nyoka was unarmed and did not pose a threat to him and his colleagues on the day. At the time of the incident, Marai was a 28-year-old police officer and section leader of the notorious reaction units based in Donata. Marai says at 2 a.m. on the 24th of August 1987, they broke into a house in Davidson where Nyoka was staying at and shot him 4 times, with his colleague shooting Nyoka a further 5 times. Marai says the motivation for killing Nyoka was that he was opposed to the apartheid government. Marai says he acknowledges that he executed an unlawful order and feels remorse for his actions. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
In the Middle East, at least 23 Palestinians, among them 8 children, have been killed in overnight Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. According to the territory's civil defense agency, the strikes came just hours after Hamas said it was prepared to release 10 Israeli hostages as part of ongoing ceasefire talks in Qatar. The deadliest bombing hit Deir el-Balah, killing 12, and more casualties were reported in other parts of the Gaza Strip. The war, which began on the 7th of October in 2023, has left over 57,000 Palestinians dead, while nearly 2,000 Israelis have been killed in the war. Gold's trading at $3,330.18 an ounce. The rand's at 17.73 to the dollar, at 24.13 to the pound, at 20.80 to the euro. Brent crude oil at $69.84 a barrel.
Traffic remains heavily backed up on the N1 North between Malibongwe Drive and Winnie Mandela Drive. That's due to road works taking place between these 2 points. While traveling on the Mike 1 North, we've got bumper-to-bumper traffic volumes between the Crown Interchange and Carr Street due to an accident right near the Carr Street off-ramp.
A look at your weather. Clear skies in store for Gauteng today. Temperatures are set to peak at highs of 17 and 18 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. The European Court of Human Rights has ruled in favour of South African Olympic champion Caster Semenya.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Walk through history, walk with it. Sunday, 27 July, 7:02 Walk the Talk. Hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. More on primemediaplus.com.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Eight minutes after 11. Welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela show. Dumelang. It's time now for our Thursday dialogue.
The Dialogue with Clement Manyathela.
It's not just another roundtable discussion.
Let's Walk the Talk on 702.
So today we are discussing this complex link between politicians and criminal elements. These allegations of criminal ties to politicians and top cops have sent shockwaves across the country. We saw the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, making several damning allegations against high-ranking police officials, including Minister Senzo Mchunu. And among the allegations that he made was that the police minister and the Deputy National Commissioner, Shadrack Sibiya, in cahoots with a criminal syndicate linked to the drug trade and involved with business people in organized crime, right? Calls have now mounted for a judicial inquiry into the criminal infiltration into the SAPS and government. And this doesn't just start now. Relationships like this that we often see exist between those in government and some kind of a link with those that are in the criminal underground. If you're going with what General Mkhwanazi says, I mean, during the apartheid era, covert networks involving smuggling, illicit arms deals, and political espionage were established, right? Some security officials and even liberation movement operatives allegedly developed ties with criminal syndicates, relationships that did not entirely dissolve with democracy. So the transition to democracy then creates this power vacuum and informal patronage networks, so to speak. So these were often filled by individuals or groups with access to the force, whether you're talking about former operatives, intelligence officers, or gang leaders. And that creates fertile ground, of course, for criminalization of politics. So is that what we're dealing with in South Africa? And we've had instances before where it appeared so. Remember with Jackie Silebi, the former National Police Commissioner, he was convicted in 2010 of corruption for accepting bribes from people like Glenn Agliotti, who was a convicted drug dealer with ties to organized crime. And the police commissioner at the time was accused of protecting drug dealers and tipping them off about investigations. So you've got to ask yourself whether we're dealing with the same situation now. Even with the former president, Jacob Zuma, by the way. I mean, he was widely associated with state capture, right? Largely involving the Gupta family, but also allegedly creating conditions for criminal syndicates to flourish under a compromised state. That's why back in 2018, you are seeing reports that drug syndicates used state intelligence structures to undermine investigations. So let us know your thoughts on 011-883-0702. What are you seeing in as far as this link exists or not between the politicians and the criminal elements? You can send your WhatsApps as well on 072-702-1702. Let me introduce you to my guests this morning. We've got Dr. Simon Howell, who is a senior research fellow at UCT's Center of Criminology. Dr. Howell, thank you for making time. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
We also have Calvin Rafadi, who is a forensic practitioner and crime expert. Calvin, thanks for making time. Hi. We'll come back to Calvin there. We also have Dr. Sandy Africa, who is the Director of Research at the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection and Associate Researcher at the University of Pretoria. Dr. Africa, thank you for joining us as well. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Clement. Good morning, Simon. Good morning, Calvin. And good morning to the listeners.
Yeah, I just want us to, in fact, let's start with you, Dr. Africa. Help us understand this historic link and if it exists at all between politicians or the state, so to speak, and of course the criminal elements. This is, yes, it's being raised as a concern now, but this is something that has existed before.
Yes, indeed. And I think you've put it so well, Clement, when you said that under apartheid, criminal networks flourished. In fact, criminal networks which had their reaches deep in the apartheid state, and this was actually unearthed through a number of initiatives, through whistleblowers, commissions, and so onwards. That, in fact, has been the history, and I suppose it's a history that has carried over into post-apartheid South Africa, because notwithstanding the best efforts to frame the security services as being the guardians of the Constitution, what has happened over time is that weak institutions have found themselves targeted by criminal networks and undermined the security of the state, and by implication have threatened the stability, the security of the nation as a whole. And you've correctly pointed out those beachheads, times at which we've actually seen how perverse this influence has been, when there have been dramatic revelations, perhaps court cases resulting in convictions, for example, that of the former police commissioner, Jackie Selebe. From time to time, there are questions raised about the role of very senior officials. And so, there are these beachheads from time to time. And I think that what we're seeing right now with the revelations or the allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi are yet again another of these peaks above the surface. But it all, in my view, points to very weak or weakened institutional foundations, because the architecture of the state has been meant to be a solid enough to withstand this, so that the people that we entrust as leaders, or at least who are appointed as leaders of these institutions, can ensure that they do the work that they are meant to do. And sadly, this does not happen without undermining of the institutional fabric of the state.
And Dr. Howell, were you surprised when you heard the allegations from General Mkhwanazi, and how did you look at those allegations with reference to, of course, what Dr. Africa speaks about, these historical links?
Well, in the first instance, I wasn't surprised. I think, these type of revelations have occurred before at various levels with various people. And, there's definitely a precedent that's been set for this type of thing to occur in South Africa. And, as Dr. Africa said, these types of institutional concerns are embedded in the way in which the state or the South African state has operated both during apartheid and post-apartheid. Crime, I think we tend to see criminal acts or we tend to see the way in which these things are committed as sort of when they become revelations, then immediately we're like, oh, well, someone's done wrong. But I think a lot of the relationships between criminal entities or organized crime and the state occur in those very small little interactions every day between individuals and individuals in the state and individuals in organized crime. So is that, while these revelations, as Dr. Africa put, are beachheads in which we can see suddenly a whole raft of issues, in fact, they occur every single day, all the time, in the very small interactions that occur between government and whoever, whether it be private citizens or organizations, whatever. So in this instance, yes, the revelations bring to light further concerns, but these type of acts are embedded within the logic of state and the way in which the state has functioned for many years now. And that of course is problematic. That's not to say that this is acceptable, but rather that these type of things have become so. I think that, these things have become so accepted in the small interactions that occur every day that they're no longer questioned. If you think of a common example is the bribes that people pay if you're caught speeding or something. It's almost accepted now to do that, and that type of thing collectively or cumulatively undermines the rule of law and the state as a and they result in these big ramifications and big revelations that occur from time to time, which ultimately bring to light further criminal concerns.
Yeah. So what are the consequences of this, Dr. Africa? What threats does the link between organized crime and politician or political elites pose to, I suppose, good governance, to state security, to development, to just broadly our democracy?
In the first instance, Clement, they take away resources. We have so many problems within our country that the resources should be directed towards. And if we don't actually have, solid institutions at all levels, obviously within these structures that are meant to combat crime, and, organized crime is on the rise at alarming levels. In fact, it's, in the words of the global initiative against organized crime, it's become something of an existential threat to South Africa because of the 7 or 8 categories of crime, organized crime, that they've identified as recently as 2022 in a risk assessment that they did and actually presented to government, including illicit drug dealing, illegal firearms trafficking, human trafficking, wildlife trafficking, and then others, including organized violence, such as political killing, kidnapping for ransom or extortion, and then the attacks or undermining of critical infrastructure, organized corruption, illegal mining, mass public transport violence. These kinds of crimes really are drowning the state because the state has to respond. But if it is spread so thin, then it is not going to be effective in dealing with any of them. And so, the public has actually called attention to a number of concerns, those which you and I as ordinary citizens are seeing. And Simon is just mentioning one of those, that is the kind of everyday normalization of petty crime. And it's upon this that the bigger and bigger picture starts to emerge, such that these small things can actually aggregate into to huger problems. So what am I saying? It's that the fact that we aren't addressing these smaller instances allows and creates the fertile ground for them to aggregate into bigger and bigger problems. And when people all over the world see that we are an open market for this kind of activity, crime then becomes entrepreneurized, and this is why we have people actually making a living out of this, and this essentially is the nature of organized crime. So much of the crime that we are seeing also has transnational characteristics. It may operate or originate from abroad, or our organized syndicates have links with people, in other parts of the country. So it really is a huge existential crisis, which is fundamentally affecting our ability to deal with the real challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, and just ensuring that the citizens and the people of the country have a chance of a better life. Too many of our resources are going into this, and it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem, which means that more and more resources have to be directed towards addressing this. So it requires hugely systemic changes, political will, strong and good leadership, and in my view, very, very robust system of oversight to ensure that what is supposed to happen is not undermined and compromised.
Yeah, Dr. Howell, what role do state tenders, for instance, or procurement contracts, even strategic appointments, what role do those play in these relationships? Because, I mean, when you really go deeper to hear about the criminal syndicates and the drug cartels that exist and how some of them have relationships with these top cops, it's quite shocking, because it goes to show that these cartels are invested on who becomes, for instance, the next police commissioner or the commissioner in this or the head of this law enforcement agency, because they know that their business can be threatened should it be someone that's not going to be keen to maybe work with them. So when you look at even just the tenders, for instance, or procurement contracts, do they have a role that they play in these kind of relationships? Or it's more about just protection when it comes to the criminal?
I think that they have a fundamental relationship. They create, on the one hand, they create the environment in which the use of or the division or the devising of criminal or organized crime elements becomes embedded within the state. So is that it's not simply that the state is separate to organized crime, but rather the state is doing business with organized crime. So they create that environment in which this type of the rule of law and the breaking of the rule of law is an acceptable undertaking. But that on further beyond that, they also a lot of these contracts and a lot of these tenders result in people undertaking services for or in part or beyond or because of the state, and results in which they cannot effectively complete the contracts, and the result is that the state itself is undermined, and the state can no longer provide the services and the essential services that it has promised to and should be providing to the citizenry. So it undermines the state's ability to actually continue the logic of governance in society. Beyond that, there is also it creates opportunities for people to embed themselves within state apparatus that ultimately, allow them to position themselves in strategically useful positions, but which enhance and further strengthen their business opportunities, which may be linked to organized crime or may be in themselves a form of organized crime. So, again, there's the sharp division between the state and organized crime is no longer possible to make. It's a very blurry line, and it is blurred considerably by tenders and by business interactions, business relationships between the state and state organs and criminal entities. And it's for that reason that it's no longer possible, I don't think, to simply extract the state from organized crime or organized crime from the state. We can no longer simply cleave them apart, because the relationships between them are so fundamentally embedded within the logic of governance in this country that it's become part and parcel of the day-to-day interactions and the day-to-day for ways in which governance is undertaken in South Africa. So, you know, I mean, the big concern here is how do you move forward from that when, you know, it's the division between the two are no longer easy to make.
Oh my goodness. So and to follow up on that, Dr. Africa, how do we move away from that? How can we start to untangle this political criminal network? Is it even possible to do that?
I think, firstly, it's important to have some perspective. And here I fully agree with Dr. Howell that these linkages are becoming so intertwined. But at the same time, lest we throw up our hands and think that there's nothing that can be done, let us also remember that within the state apparatus, there are good, honest people just going to work, doing what they're expected to do, going beyond the call of duty very often in order to ensure that the services they are supposed to provide, be it healthcare services or security services or education services, actually do happen. And the same would go for the police. And so I do think that we must acknowledge that our state, at least this is my view, is not, you know, so hopelessly collapsed and compromised that, as some would say, it has become a wholesale mafia state. So let's separate out the good from the bad and actually consolidate the good. Let us actually applaud those areas where the state, with the little resources, because we also know that we are in a fiscal crisis, is doing what it can, and direct our attention, shine the spotlight on those areas where there are weaknesses. And what does this require? This requires that at the very top, the entrusted parties, the entrusted executives must actually exercise the best due diligence, and we must have faith in those individuals and institutions, that they are actually conducting due diligence to the extent that we expect of them. Let's remember that the president, as the head of state, appoints members of an executive to assist him in the civil oversight of all these institutions, be it the police or the defense or the education. And so we must have our trust in them. However, those individuals are public servants who are accountable to Parliament. And so Parliament must play its role. And so I think we must welcome the decision of the Speaker to, some say it's kind of kicking the ball down the road, but in my view, a two-week window in which to call all these individuals, get them to account for why they have, you know, either breached protocol or felt they had to act in the way that they did, say what they did, when they did, and how they did it, to do that investigation and come up with the recommendations. This is, in fact, they should not actually have been chasing their tails as they now are, but parliamentary oversight has for too long been too weak and too blunt an instrument. The independent authorities that are supposed to strengthen our democracy very often complain that they are tied at the wrists. They actually don't have the powers and the teeth that they need to function effectively. They are beholden to the executive. We need people to look at that. And then, of course, within the services themselves, there really needs to be better controls, oversight. Other institutions who from time to time say that they are going to manage certain processes better, really need to step up to the plate and do that. We heard some time ago that Treasury was going to be centralizing procurement processes. And yet, when you look at how some of these things are happening, it seems as though that's not particularly effective. And it may well be because of the nature of this world of crime, very much intelligence driven, and the intelligence services very often made to believe that they have the right to do things secretly. I do think that we just need much more scrutiny and oversight over how our institutions function.
Yeah, that takes us to 11:31. So let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. We'll come back with your thoughts. Give us a call on 011-883-0702. You can share your inputs with us on 072-702-1702. My goodness, are we in a mafia state? Are we in a criminal state, a tsotsi state, as Gogo Machikri said yesterday? How do you slice it? What's your assessment? And how do you think we can start untangling this political and criminal networks? Khomoto, you've got the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. The European Court of Human Rights has ruled in favor of South African Olympic champion Caster Semenya. The court has found that Semenya was discriminated against because of her natural testosterone levels. In 2019, Semenya was barred from competing in certain women track events after World Athletics introduced regulations requiring female athletes with differences in sexual development to medically lower their testosterone. Preparations are underway in Mpumalanga, where a memorial service for late former Deputy President David Mabuza will be held today. The events aimed at honoring Mabuza's legacy will be held at 3 separate locations this afternoon. It's been exactly a week since Mabuza succumbed to what his family described as breathing difficulties at a hospital in Sandton. And Pakistan police have arrested 149 people in a raid on a scam call center. The country's cybercrime investigation agency says the large call center, which was involved in Ponzi schemes and investment fraud. The agency says 71 of the arrested suspects are foreign nationals, mostly Chinese. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, traveling on the N3 North, we've got some delays just as you approach the Gludi's interchange while heading towards Alexandra via Morafontein Road. We've got roadworks taking place there. Please be on the lookout, and they are causing delays towards Vincent Chabalala Road. If you are traveling on the N1 North, more roadworks are taking place. This is between Malibongo Drive and Winnie Mandela Drive, and they are also causing heavy delays there. While in heading towards Cresta, we've got an accident reported along Beyersnodie Drive. It happened just before the N1 off-ramp. It's also slowing down traffic. And if you are traveling on the N14 South or towards the Muldersdrift area, do expect delays between Cedar Road and Hendrik Potgieter Road. And if you do come across anything else on the roads, please do remember to share those reports with us. We are on X at EWN Traffic. Otherwise, Karabo Jale will have your next traffic update at the top of the hour.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6. I have to say, I don't recall for many years now seeing a JMPD officer or two at one of these trouble spots trying to help sort it out. How exactly does the JMPD see its role?
Yes, with our mandates, of course, as Metro Police, we have 3 core mandates, one being crime prevention, other by law enforcement, and thirdly, traffic management, which of course then includes controlling of traffic within the city of Johannesburg. The challenge is with the manpower that we do have within the JMPD.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
The South African Future Trust, in partnership with Startup Club ZA, presents the Big Pitch, their first pitch series offering homegrown startups their chance to secure $1 million in investment funding. So if you're an entrepreneur looking to propel your business into the big leagues, this opportunity made possible through funding by Oppenheimer Generations is for you. Entries for the Cape Town qualifier open on the 14th of July and close on the 21st of July. The top 100 will pitch live on the 13th of August. Enter at startupclubza.com. In November, the South African Future Trust Summit will return, where the big pitch grand finale will take place. Limited early bird tickets are available for 900 Rand. Get yours now at www.summit.southafricanfuturetrust.org.
Whenever you hear deep in the heart and art of jazz, think Sia Makuzeni with the big band, Jasmine Horn, Alun Wad, The Baylor Project, Jose James sings Badu, Umusangare, Esperanza Spalding, Michelle Dugiocello, Elaine, Trezo, Munei, Mondli Ngobo, and many other spectacular icons. Think Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival, 4 stages at the Santon Convention Center, 26th, 27th and 28th September, and take me there. Book via Ticketmaster.
Hey besties, welcome to my kitchen tour, or should I say, my new walk-in wardrobe. Over here, we have the pantry, now home to my jeans and shirts, all color-coded. Oh, and the air fryer, literally the perfect place for my makeup brushes. And who would have thought, the oven is the place to store my handbags.
Who needs a kitchen? Simply spend 200 Rand or more and you could win Simply Asia for a year. T's and C's apply. Simply Asia, connecting the Thai way.
This winter, be the difference in the life of a child facing a life-limiting illness. Join Footprints for Sam for a magical fundraising gala dinner on Saturday, 26 July at the iconic Polo Room in Nanda Club. An evening of fine dining, moving stories, and meaningful impact. Sponsor a table, bring your team, or treat someone special. I am Sam's mum, Melissa. Join us. Book now at footprintsforsam.org. All proceeds support 6 vital pediatric initiatives. Footprints for Sam, because every child deserves hope and a future.
In this year's Nedbank Business Ignite on 702, we put the spotlight on small businesses who dared to disrupt the industry, awarding one winner 200,000 Rand in cash and a 200,000 Rand advertising package.
It's good for businesses because what we did in automating businesses' financial reporting, we've managed to reduce the amount of time that it takes to prepare their financial statements from 2 weeks to just 2 days, even a day, which is a game changer. And what it does, we have tools that provide businesses and business leaders with real-time information of what's happening in their business in terms of their financial landscape, so that they are ahead of the game. They are able to make informed and timely decisions.
Nedbank Business Ignite on 702. Go to igniteyourbusiness.co.za to view the finalists and winner for 2025. Nedbank, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
The Dialogue with Clement Manyathela.
It's not just another roundtable discussion.
Let's walk the talk on 702.
22 minutes before 12 o'clock. It's our Thursday Dialogue, and we're talking about this complex relationship or link between politicians and the criminal element. I've got a WhatsApp here from Mez who says, Clement, basically what your panel is saying is South African citizens, you're on your own. Well, Mez, I think we are on our own. In fact, the more you start understanding how big these criminal elements are and how what is happening now is actually what we know is just but a fraction. There are big, powerful people and syndicates that are fighting behind the scenes. And Gogo Obrimachikwe explained it so well yesterday, that this doesn't even start now. Even before this democracy, there's always been this link that exists. And as you've heard, some of these relationships were built even during apartheid in the underground between some of the ANC operatives and some of the criminals, and some of those relationships didn't dissolve post our democracy. So what does that mean? Where do you think we are, and how do we move away from this kind of structure that seems to be the case in many, if not at all, governments across the world? Let's start with your WhatsApps that have come on 072 702 1702.
Good morning, Clement. If I listen, or based on what I've read, it's not just South Africa that's suffering from this. We're a country, there's like 2 parallel governments, as you said yesterday. So even in the US, when you look at it, there's the business and the politicians. So can your panel just tell us which country has got a better grasp on this? Which model should we be following in South Africa for us to have a better handle on the government not being run by gangsters, mafia, or people who've got ill intent. Just give an example of a country or a model that we can follow, that we can have better controls. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, Dr. Howell, are there even countries that, because this is not like immune, like there are countries, it's not like there are countries that are immune to having these kind of dynamics. And this listener gives us even the example of the United States. Are there governments across the world that we could look to who have managed to deal with a system like this?
Well, yes, I mean, there are examples from around the world, but in different ways. So I'd be hesitant to simply draw wholesale from one specific country or say that, this place offers the model that we ought to adopt. Rather to say that, especially considering that South Africa is an incredibly complex society and an incredibly complex country that is the result of a long history of violence and exclusion. And therefore, it's not so easy to simply look to other places, because there's very few other places that match us, or which can be seen in some ways parallel to us. So that being said, there are of course elements from different areas that we might think to draw from, and I mean, you could cite elements from, I don't know, from the US in terms of the way in which the structures of governance are positioned so as that they provide the sort of oversight that we would like to have. So think of their judicial review process is quite powerful and effective, and in the same way you might say that you could draw from the UK in terms of the way in which the constitutional mandate is embedded within the culture of politics. So as if someone is found to be corrupt, they immediately resign and walk away, and that's it. There's no big, continue to be paid, even though you're not at work type of thing. It's just you're done, you're fired, and that's it. In the same way, you could draw bits of the responses from Uruguay and places in South America that have responded to organized crime using police forces and the criminal justice system, and there have been some successes there, and they have been quite effective. So it depends on which element you're speaking of and what you'd like to draw from. But for me, the important thing is to remember is that South Africa is quite unique, and South Africa needs to look towards and into itself to find the solutions that are best suited for itself. And I think we have the intellectual capacity, we have the resources, and we have the motivation to do this. So it's time that we build our own capacity and deal with these things effectively for ourselves and by ourselves.
Here's another voice note.
Hi, Clement. Regarding your conversation, the way that General Nkwenazi held his press conference with the tactical gear and the armed gunmen, masked gunmen, reminded of a West African coup d'etat type situation, which should not be tolerated and was the wrong way to do it, but we needed the information to get out. So if that was the way, then it happened now. So I want to know who investigates whom here? The police, the government officials. I mean, there's a lot of people that would be implicated: government officials, policemen, private persons, corporate persons. So who investigates this? Who is clean? I mean, Nkwenazi, police commissioner, police minister, Mkhunu, they're all in some way implicated in something. So who will investigate this, and who is the angel here to investigate? Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Dr. Sandy Africa. I mean, you raised an issue even before the headlines about independent institutions. And I mean, the question now is, because you've got South Africans now that are going to be worried even about the capacity, for instance, of the SAPS to even do proper investigations. As the listener asks, who investigates who, and how do we get to then have confidence even in those decisions to investigate, or even in those investigations if decisions have been taken to investigate?
Yeah, it's a complex one, and let's not forget that there actually were investigations unfolding and which were leading to arrests. I think that the acting head of crime intelligence had been arrested. There were rumors of the actual commissioner of being arrested, or about to be arrested before all this blew up. So in a sense, the ongoing work of policing in all this drama is unfolding. Apart from the parliamentary inquiries, which the Speaker has asked for, there have been calls for a judicial commission, and the President, public expects, is going to say or do something. But the listener is absolutely correct. We actually do need a robust system where, the very guardians of the Constitution, if they slip up or if they are accused of slipping up, can also be brought to book. And I think this is where there's a lot of work to be done. My view is that this, some say it's heralding the start of a huge crisis, but my fear is that this will blow over. It does require us, if you're going to get to the bottom of this problem, to have a very systemic and perhaps a longer term view on how to deal with this problem, which has been with us, as you pointed out, from the apartheid years, and it has just rolled over. So I think we need to understand organized crime. I think that we need long-term strategies. And I think that we need all of government and all of society approach. And it's in this context that, the most effective institutions, they're not these short-term, I suppose, tactical response units, which are very much favored by our state as responses to deep systemic problems are put in place. So it may not be comforting, but I do think that this does give us a window to take a hard look at ourselves and come up with more enduring systemic changes to the whole system of criminal justice in this country.
Yeah, it's 12 minutes before 12 o'clock. Madipi, Joseph, I see your calls. I'll start with them after the break.
Celebrate the horse racing season of champions with Hollywood bets and saddle up for sensational success. Stand a chance to win a spectacular share of over 2 million rand in prizes, including a brand new Amoda C5 or C7. All you have to do is bet 50 rand or more on any horse racing event for a shot at your crowning moment. Take the reins and get ready to gallop to grand rewards. Bet now.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Proudly South African will be at the 702 Walk the Talk on Sunday, the 27th of July at Freedom Park in Tshwane. Look out for Lolo Warona, their joyful mascot, bringing energy and reminding walkers of the power of local. When you buy South African-made goods, you're supporting local industries, incubating local innovation and creating much-needed jobs. So as you load that card or swipe that card, choose local, create change, and show your love from Mzansi with every purchase.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3274. Every time I go to a fancy birthday dinner, I'm reminded I'm just 5 fancy birthday dinners away from financial ruin. Note to self, don't make any more born in June friends.
Recently removed from the family payroll. Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Some walks are just for exercise, others for leisure. But this walk is for something greater.
It's team building.
This July, you won't just take a step, you'll take a stand. You'll walk through history. You'll walk with it. On Sunday, 27 July, the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns. It's a route that winds through the heart and soul of our capital city, from the sacred grounds of Freedom Park to the powerful steps of the Union buildings. Choose the 8 kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7 kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4 kilometer for families and first-timers. Entries are 360 Rand for adults, 200 Rand for children under 12. Enter now on primemediaplus.com. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. is where footsteps become footprints.
The Dialogue with Clement Manyathela.
It's not just another roundtable discussion.
Let's walk the talk on 702.
9 minutes before 12 o'clock. Let me start with your calls. Madipi, you're calling us from Pretoria. Hi.
Hi, Clement.
Sure.
My name is Maditsi.
Ah, great. Thank you, brother. Maditsi, go ahead.
Anyway, I want to preamble my question with this. In my reckoning, what motivates politicians and the bureaucrats to establish relationship with the underworld? Is the prospect of the rewards that may flow as a result of that relationship. So, what is it that can be done in terms of policy to make sure that the politicians and bureaucrats get rewards, but also along with those rewards, there should be a stick in case they gravitate towards the underworld, even though they have these rewards, generous rewards that they get. Is there a case study elsewhere where this particular model is being implemented or is being explored?
Yeah, I get what you mean, Maditsi. Thank you. That's a great one. I mean, with judges, we've got it where that system with judges where they become judges for the rest of their lives and until you're of course impeached. But part of the reason is that you shouldn't be too easily swayed by even attempts to try and influence you in your professional life. Dr. Howell, do you want to respond to that? I mean, surely if these politicians or these government officials end up getting into these relationships with criminals, there's something then that clearly motivates them. So what can be done then? Are there incentives? How do we ensure that they don't get easily tempted?
Well, on the one hand, I don't think the state can compete with organized crime in terms of short-term incentives. I mean, it's simply that it does pay, and I mean, it pays a lot more than the state often. So in those instances, I don't think there should be some sort of system where the state sets up a commensurate incentivized scheme that sort of encourages people not to commit crime. That's not going to work. Rather, I think on the one hand, there needs to be significant and more rigorous implementation of oversight mechanisms and checks and balances and the like, so is that, it's not as easy, simply put, to engage with organized crime, and it's not so easy to allow for others to engage in organized crime. So, there needs to, and that's not only at the broader national level, but right down to the operational mandates and the frameworks within which people conduct business and conduct the business of state every single day. Those type of practical and implementable changes need to occur. On the other hand, I think we need to begin asking from our public servants what public servants need to begin asking themselves, what is it that they're doing and why are they doing it? There needs to be, people need to realize that in working for the state or working through the state, that there is a call there that you are working for the public good and for the public interest, and that should ultimately provide you with the framework, the moral and ethical framework within which to conduct yourself. I don't think we can. There's no way of extensively policing this type of activity all the time. I mean, people will ultimately have opportunities to move beyond their official mandate quite regularly. So people need to police themselves, and for that instance, then that requires that people have honest discussion with themselves about what it is they want to do and how they want to do and who they are. And I think that, that is ultimately, and of course that can be supplemented with vetting and various forms of sort of HR policy. But ultimately, much like being a police officer is a calling, we need to have people in government who have the best interests of the state at heart.
Here, let's hear from Joseph in Pretoria. Joseph, hi.
Clement, good afternoon. How are you?
Sure, man. Go ahead.
Good. Years back, I was incarcerated with a very high-profile individual that had a warrant from Interpol, and we shared a floor, and then we had discussions. When you guys are bored, in prison, you get to have discussions, etc., etc. And we had a discussion about his connections two high-profile individuals in the cabinet, number one, and from the police services, and how he got to that. And he mentioned something to me that, you know what, it's very easy for me to get to the top if I have the right people from the bottom, and also if I have the funds and means to make their life more luxurious, etc., etc. And then I said, okay, but then how safe are you if someone then whistle blows tomorrow and says, okay, but it's fine, this person paid me the following, etc., because out of fear of their lives, etc. And he said, you know what, South Africans are prone and are very gullible to corruption because of the top, bros, and that's from the president self down to the bottom. And it starts at the bottom for you to be able to get to the president. So I'm talking about someone that had connections to ministers, similar to what's happening now. And when we got out, I got out first, and then he came out, and because I was trying to do some rehabilitation programs, I reached out to him because he gave me his details that, you know what, when you're out, let me know if I can assist, because I wanted to do a couple of things. But I wanted to do it the right way because I'm rehabilitated, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
And I started at the Department of Education. That door was shut, and then I went to NYDA. That door was shut because I couldn't pay a bribe of 35,000 so that they can issue me with funding, etc. So now, because that door was shut, I had to opt to make that call.
Yeah.
I made that call. I said, you know what, I need your assistance because this is actually what I'm passionate about, and then I want to change people's lives. I don't want to be indebted to you in any way because I don't want to fall back to where I was again. And then he said, no, it's fine. I'm going to make a call. Someone will call you.
Yeah.
And you're going to do it the right way. Submit your proposal. My proposal was done by the assistance of people that are very good at what they do. And I submitted that proposal, and I got a call from someone who didn't mention their name. And then I went there. We met.
Wow. After his intervention. Wow. Joseph, I'm out of time, but what a story you're sharing with us. Thank you so much. I think, that just tells us, what we're dealing with here. Thank you for sharing that with us. And thanks to Dr. Simon Howell and Dr. Cindy Africa for joining us. It's 2 minutes before 12.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
This October, the Sanlam Cape Town Marathon is chasing history, and you are invited. The marathon on track to become Africa's first official world marathon major, and it's going to be major in every way. That means global prestige, big benefits for runners, and a massive boost for the local economy. So lace up, bring the vibe, and join thousands of runners from around the world as they hit the streets of Cape Town, smash PB, soak up the scenery, and be part of the race that's about to make history. I'm going to be doing the Cape Town Marathon, and I'm pushing for a personal best. So hoping to see you there. It's on the 18th and 19th of October. You can sign up now at capetownmarathon.com. The Sanlam Cape Town Marathon, proudly supported by 702.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah, it started out as a passion, and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
Coming up
on the Midday Report.
All right, coming up, it's a Midday Report. Sidi Madia, how are you?
I'm okay.
What's coming up today?
I don't even know why I'm giggling.
You know very well why you're giggling. What's coming up today?
Lots coming up on the show. I don't know if you saw wonderful news. Caster Semenya, another victory. So we'll speak to her. The European Court has ruled in her favor. So we'll speak to a lawyer, rather. And then the DA was out to the police station laying charges against the minister. Senzo Mkunu, another one. But the MK party has also done the same, but not just him. Him and General Shadrach Sibia. Of course, attention will be turning to Mpumalanga in the coming days for the funeral of the late David Babuza. Alpha Ramushwana is there. The defense budget vote, we are critical. not even stable, but it's in a critical space. So we'll speak about that. And I don't know if people are aware of this, but I keep talking about how there's a splinter party of the MKP, and not Floyd Chivambu, but that it's gazetted, it's on the IEC site. I've been saying it when I stood in for you, I said it. So we'll speak to them because they're making that announcement today.
All right. That's what's coming up on the Midday Report with Sidi Madia. Thank you for listening to the show. We're back tomorrow with the Friday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. Have a beautiful day, friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Khomutsa Modise. We begin with news just in. Former apartheid-era police officer Johan Marais has been sentenced to 15 years behind bars for the murder of student activist Caiphus Nyoga. On the 24th of August 1987, Marais and his police colleagues broke into the Davidton home of Nyoga and shot him multiple times. Nyoga was a 23-year-old activist at the time with the ANC-aligned Congress of South African Students. Marais entered into a guilty plea last year, saying the incident has caused him a severe emotional trauma. Judge Bapi Mosopa handed down the judgment a short while ago.
The sentence that is going to be meted to you today is intended to serve two purposes: deterrence and retribution. In a clinical psychologist report, you indicated you want to write a book about your life after completion of your trial matter, and the time has now arrived.
In another major development, the European Court of Human Rights has ruled in favor of South African Olympic champion Caster Semenya. The court has found that Semenya was not given a fair hearing after she was discriminated against because of her naturally elevated testosterone levels. In 2019, Semenya was barred from competing in certain women's track events after World Athletics introduced regulations requiring female athletes with differences in sexual development to medically lower their testosterone levels. Semenya initially challenged the rules of the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland, but her case and several appeals were dismissed. Today, the court upheld a 2023 decision that the rules breached Semenya's rights to privacy, non-discrimination, and effective legal protection. Mongezi Koko takes a look.
I've reached a point in my life to say, look, you may question me, it's fine. At the end of the day, I have my purpose. Even if you poke me, it's okay. Even if you judge me, you criticize me, it don't matter.
The ruling is seen as a landmark for Semenya, a two-time Olympic champion, and for other athletes with similar conditions who have also been excluded or forced to take medication to compete. The court found that Swiss authorities failed to adequately protect Semenya's human rights, including a right to an effective legal remedy. It's unclear how soon or if World Athletics will revise the rules, which remain in place for now. World Athletics has previously defended the regulations as necessary to preserve fairness in women's competition. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News.
Preparations are underway in Mpumalanga, where a memorial service is expected to be held for former late Deputy